Morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the Pasco County Board of County Commission meeting of June 4th, 2019. I'd like to everyone at this time, please silence all electronic devices. At this time, I'd like to everyone rise for the invocation and pledge. Madam Clerk.
Please bow your heads. O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Here.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Here.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Here.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Here.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Now is the time for public comment. Citizens are given an opportunity to comment on any item coming before the board during this public comment section. The board who takes public comment on items and placed on a future board agenda the board takes individual public hearings beginning at 1:30 p.m. Individuals speaking during public comment will be given 3 minutes to speak. After stating your name and address for the clerk, the timer located on the podium will start a countdown. After 2 minutes, one beep will sound. The light on the timer will change from green to yellow, letting you know that 1 minute remains. After the time is up, two beeps will sound. The light will change from yellow to red, indicating 3 minutes are up and it's time to close your comments. Do I have a sheet? Has anyone signed up? Nobody signed up? Okay, is there anyone here this morning that would like to speak at public comment time? Please come forward if you are. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. All right, I have a pull sheet. On the pull sheet is C37, withdraw. C45, withdraw. C36, pull and revise. C40, withdraw. Board, what's the pleasure for the other items on the consent agenda?
Move for approval of remaining consent items.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay. C36.
36.
Good morning, Margaret Smith, County Engineer. On C36, we just modified the bond number on the back of the page, and that corrected the agenda memo.
Mr. Chairman, while the county engineer is there, C37, which you've withdrawn, that's being withdrawn because it's a duplicate item to 38.
That is true. That is true.
So the plat is getting, plat, I just want to make sure the record is clear. The townhomes plat is getting approved, but we had it twice on the agenda, so you're pulling 37.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move for approval with a note of change.
Second. I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed.
And there were 2 seconds at the same time.
Moore can have it.
Okay, so seconded by Moore. Thank you.
I'm glad we got that clear. Okay.
Easy guy. Easy.
The mics are awful hot today.
They're hot, yeah.
Now's the time for, go forward to the regular agenda. We got a time certain?
Yes, Commissioner R1 is time certain. We're seeing if he can make it over here early
Okay.
right now, but we can go to R2 if you'd like.
Okay, go to R2.
Good morning.
Dr. Elmore, please give us your name and your address.
Yes, sir. Whitney Elmore, County Extension Director, 1600 Maximilian Drive, Wesley Chapel. I think we've got a PowerPoint. Good. Okay, so R2 concerns, oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. So R2 concerns a donation from Wellbuilt for our commercial kitchen incubator space at the One Stop Shop here in Dade City. So they are actually offering 4 different appliances that we needed so that this space will be, let me get over here, there we go. This space will be utilized by the public for preservation and canning by our office and by Pasco Economic Development Council to offer classes, entrepreneurship, canning, preservation, food safety, all that kind of good stuff. So they have been working with us very closely as an excellent partner, and we do appreciate that donation of equipment from them. And this just gives you an idea of some of the goals. And they work closely with us with facilities from Pasco County to retrofit an older commercial kitchen space in that building, which has been absolutely fantastic. So this is going to open up a lot of opportunities for us and the community. And just to give you an idea of the items, sorry, I jumped over it, they are offering a gas range with oven, a reach-in freezer, a reach-in refrigerator, and an ice maker. So these are integral to what we'll actually be doing there. And just as a save the date, we have our incubator kitchen open house on September 26th at 10:30. So we do ask that the board accept these appliances for the one-stop shop.
Second. I have a motion and a second to accept the appliances. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passed.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Elmore. So we have a time certain, and that's at 11 o'clock.
He's on, Commissioner, he's on his way over here. I mean, his offices are just a few blocks from here, so if you want to start miscellaneous
We'll
business,
start with old business,
and then when he gets here, we can go to
and
it.
then we'll have him come up. Okay, Mr. Moore,
Wow.
old
Okay.
business.
Yeah.
It's quick today.
Give me 1 second. Be prepared here. I do have a few items. I guess we have the time today. So first thing I want to just thank staff again for the Kent Grove cleanup this past Saturday. The team was out in the Kent Grove area, and they collected just over 80 tons of material and almost 15 tons of tires. So obviously that's going to help prevent a lot of the illegal dumping issues that we have throughout the county, and definitely improves the quality of life for the residents in that area. So again, to Dan and your team and everybody that was involved, thank you very much for doing that. I sincerely appreciate it. I know the residents in that area really appreciate it too. So
And
thank you again.
Commissioner, if I could,
Yeah.
Thursday or Friday last week, I had to go to the dump to bring a refrigerator out there. And I talked to a couple of the guys that I had met during Moon Lake, and they were very excited to go out and do this. And it was kind of neat to hear their perspective on how much it means to them to go do these community cleanups around the county and give back. So I just thought you'd like to hear it. I
Good,
thought it was
thank you.
pretty neat that they were like, hey, we're going to Kent Grove, and
That's great.
whenever it was, 2 weeks ago, whenever they did it. So
It was this past Saturday.
yeah, so they were very excited to go. I thought
Good.
it was pretty neat.
Thanks,
So,
Commissioner. Appreciate it. Yeah, they did a great job. So next, I'll ask for another area. I'll get with you, Dan. So, new Fire Station 13 ribbon cutting was last week. So great turnout. Obviously, it was very warm outside. Last time it was freezing outside, but great event. It was amazing how many people from the community actually attended that event. There was quite a bit of folks that live in the area that came out. So congratulations to Fire Rescue on their new facility. I also want to bring up Sunshine State Games, ice hockey this weekend at Advent Health Center Ice. It's the third of the 4 events Pasco County is hosting for the Sunshine State Games this year. And then we'll have a better idea of room nights once that's completed. The next item I wanted to bring up is you'll have 2 letters in front of you. One of them, Mr. Steinschneider was gracious to complete when we gave those instructions last week about writing a letter to Pasco County.
Pinellas.
Pinellas, oh, I'm sorry. From Pasco to Pinellas. That's what I meant to say. From Pasco to Pinellas. You all should have the letter in front of you. I asked there be a signature line for each commissioner there. If everybody approves that, we can move forward with sending that letter to the Pinellas County Commission. And that, again, is in reference to them paying their property taxes. I think Commissioner Starkey had a
Yeah,
concern.
I just have a concern with using the word appalled. I think that's probably not the most diplomatic word we should use. I'd like to consider changing that word. And I think this is a national precedent-setting case.
That's what I
and-
said.
Right?
That's what I
And,
said.
Yeah, we should make sure they know that this would be setting national precedents, that one county can avoid paying taxes in another county. But at the very least, I just would like that word appalled just changed to a different word. Concerned, extremely concerned, or, some other words, I think, besides appalled.
I used the word the commissioner used when he directed me to draft the letter. Yeah, we can change it to is concerned, is going, or very concerned, whatever the board would desire. I'm not so sure that this will set national precedent, because it's a Florida constitutionally based argument.
Okay.
It would set precedent within the state, although Pinellas is arguing that to do the contrary would set precedent within the state as well, because they're making the argument that if their sovereign immunity doesn't extend to other jurisdictions and their road crews are in Pasco County, they lose their sovereign immunity for, if sovereign immunity goes away, it goes away for everything, is the argument they're making. I don't know that you get to that point, but.
So, maybe we say, should Florida own property in Georgia?
Yeah, and that, you're right. I think what we
Right.
can't do, though, is because we want to get this out today. Mr. Steinschneider obviously also had this approved by the private appraiser's
Yeah.
attorney, so we got to be very careful. I mean, if you want to change
Just change that word
appalled to
appalled,
extremely concerned,
Yeah.
I think Commissioner Mariano has a question,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I will tell you, I think, that word stuck out to me as well, but I actually liked it, because I think it's that dramatic a comment that we want to let them know it is this big a deal. We think it sets a tremendous burden on all other governments to have to worry about another government coming to buy land in their property and not paying taxes. And that could happen anywhere. But I think appalled is actually a strong word. I kind of liked it, but if you want to go to a different word to change that one thing, I'll be all right, I guess.
I mean, I like it too, but if Commissioner Starkey has a concern about it, I want us to be able to get this letter out today, so.
Okay. Just need to
Mr.
make the motion.
Commissioner Wells has a question.
Mr. Wells.
Mr. Oakley, I mean, the letter's coming from you, if I'm okay with that word.
It's from all of us.
Oh, it's
But
not-
I mean, it's still, Commissioner Oakley's the one signing it.
No, we are
Well,
signing
no,
this one.
it's-
Oh, we're all signing it?
Yeah, I'm not going to
I
sign it.
don't care
signature.
either way, I'm fine with that word, I think it really gets the point across, but whatever, I'm fine with the way it is too, so.
Well, so where are we? Because I would rather say
No.
very concerned,
We should make the
Extremely.
motion.
extremely concerned.
If you want to change it, that I'm fine with it, because I want Commissioner Starkey to sign
I'm
it,
fine
so.
with doing that, make it extremely concerned, make the motion that way.
Okay.
And then we get a second.
All right, so moved.
Second.
All right, had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed with
Thanks.
eight changes in the letter.
So if we can have those and we can sign it in the afternoon, that would be great. Heck,
Yep.
we might have time this
Okay.
morning to do it, right?
Yep.
Thank you for that. And one more thing, you also have another letter. I had a meeting with Secretary Gwynn about a week ago. He briefed me, and he may have meetings with you too, I'm not sure, but
That's coming up.
briefed me on, obviously, the 275 from MLK to Bears Avenue. One of the things their MPO and their MPO Citizens Advisory Committee has voted to ask them to reject an FDOT LRTP amendment for adding a general use lane in the direction of 275 and remove 275 north as a funding priority in their TIP. So some of the folks over in Hillsborough and the MPO and the Citizens Committee are trying to push the boulevard concept, which would be a disaster. I think we could probably all agree with that. And this could have detrimental effects on Pasco County and our traffic flow in Pasco County. We definitely need to, that lane needs to be added to 275. And I think Commissioner Mariano would appreciate this. It is no longer a toll lane or a managed lane. It actually is just an additional lane. There's no managed lane or no toll attached to the extension of 275 at this time. So what I thought would be a great idea would be for us to write a letter, and the chairman can just sign this one, stating that we want them to go, we would like the Board of County Commissioners and their NPO to continue on supporting the Florida Department of Transportation on the widening or adding an additional lane to 275 north of Martin Luther King to Bears Avenue. If we could have support with that and have the chairman sign that, I'd appreciate it. And we can get it. It needs to go out to it again today because they have their meeting next week and we do not meet again before that meeting.
Is this to help with the BRT?
This would have, well, this would
Yes, it will.
have a detrimental effect on that if this lane is not added. So you have two lanes. So you have the additional
Yeah.
lane on 275, then you would have an additional lane for the BRT, the future BRT, but they're not going to move, more likely wouldn't move forward with the BRT if they don't add this additional lane.
So Commissioner Kemp sits on T-BARTA, and she's very vocal against the regional plan. She doesn't want
Yep.
to look at a regional plan. She only wants to focus on things that make it better inside of Hillsborough County. So while I would say everyone else wants to look at a regional solution, and frankly, that's what T-BARTA is all about. So I would be in support of this as a representative on T-BARTA.
Mr. Mariano?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Moore, I think the letter's brilliant. It's a great idea. I was going to bring it up at the TMA meeting coming up.
Okay.
I met with DOT, a couple of representatives yesterday, and we
Okay.
talked about the issue,
Good.
and we were kind of talking about, how to best go about it. So I think the letter is fantastic. Great idea, bringing it forward. Fully supported. If they do not match the plan, that funding goes away. And just like we were at an MPOAC meeting, which we can talk about later, it is critical that the plans have to line up. Otherwise, they lose the funding. So as well as the whole concept that I think the Tempe Partnership was fully supportive of this whole plan going through that gold standard BRT. We need to make sure we keep every piece together, and that's a key piece. So I'm happy to, as we bring this up, to make this an agenda item if we could, and if not on the committee reports at the TMA meeting coming up. And if we have another commissioner that could show up instead of Commissioner Starkey and myself, if someone else could show up as well for Friday's
here.
meeting,
It's
which
gonna
is
be in
right here.
Pasco.
Right,
Yeah.
right in Pasco County. I think it would be great if we had one more representative there as well, saying the importance of
that
this
meeting?
letter.
When is it?
When does that
It's
meeting?
Friday, is it 9:30?
It's the 7th? It's
This
Friday
Friday?
the 7th, 9:30, at the Hilton Garden Inn.
Right here in Pasco County.
Just to, Mr. Chairman, just to add on to that, the problem is Commissioner Kemp is the one that's represented on the TMA, and, on T-BARTA. And I believe that this letter needs to go to every commissioner and everyone on the MPO, because it's not only their, I don't know how their MPO is set up, but they have lots of people on their MPO. So I think this letter needs to go to everyone on the MPO, but I also think we should maybe.
T-BARTA, too.
And T-BARTA, but I think we need to go further and have discussions with their other commissioners, because I don't know if the other ones realize what's going on with this BRT, because I don't think Commissioner Kemp is going back and relaying
And reporting.
what's going on, since she's against it.
Okay.
So they may not realize the significance of this.
Okay, so-
And I'm concerned.
So let me, here's.
So make your motion.
So here's what I'll do instead, okay, because it seems like everybody's on board, really, this means a lot to everybody. So Andy, why don't we do this? Let's just, here. If you could also CC the T-BARTA, and what was your other suggestion?
T-BARTA and all the members of the MPO
Yeah,
in
and it says,
Hillsborough County.
it is.
Yes, ma'am,
Hillsborough.
I have that on there
Yes,
already.
And
for
the
them,
other
yeah.
commissioners, because they may not have all their commissioners
Okay.
on
Okay, so go ahead and, where it says CC, so.
MPO.
If I could,
Yeah,
Mr.
go ahead.
Mariano?
the TMA, I think, should be informed
TMA
as well.
too.
Yeah.
Okay,
But keep in mind, it's all the all the Pinellas County Commissioners may not be aware of it as well.
Yeah.
So it might be good to put all the Pinellas County Commissioners as well
I
in the
agree.
loop.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cover both.
So why don't we see, here we go. You ready, Andy?
I'm ready.
So CC all Hillsborough County board members, CC all Pinellas County board members, CC T-BARDA, you can't, instead of, that's too much, it's T-BARDA because they'll have to put it on the record or they'll have to read it off their meeting, and the TMA, right? So all Hillsborough County Commissioners, all Pinellas County Commissioners, T-BARDA, and the TMA, are we on board? And then make a line for every commissioner to sign it instead of just the chair.
I'm
Right.
wondering if we shouldn't go a little further in your description, just to be sure, kind of what we just said, that if they do the other project, it greatly imperils the regional project. And I think we should
Yeah.
spell that out.
Okay, so adding these general use lanes is important priority to help the flow of people and commerce throughout their region. Is that, you want to add to
I
that?
think you should be more direct, yeah.
Okay, so language again?
A proposal to fund, is it the Boulevard project? In Hillsborough County versus the additional lane on 275 could,
Of detrimental effects to the entire region?
will have
Will
a
have
detrimental effect on the proposed regional BRT plan.
We don't want to focus on BRT though, because we want to make sure we get the additional lane, so.
And
The additional,
Commissioner, Andy Taylor, for the record, legislative aide to Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Starkey, I just wanted to add in this, and I'm happy to add in the line about the BRT. This was trying to focus on the support for the LRTP amendment at next week's hearing, so that's why it's focused on that, but I'll
Well,
add in the
just
link.
add the, make sure everyone knows what the implication is if they fund this project, that it greatly imperils a regional project.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
regional
I
in
just-
general, yeah, okay.
I'll just hammer that a little
Good.
more.
All right, so, thank you, Andy. So Andy will make those changes and we'll bring it back to, for everybody to sign. And we'll do the line for everybody to sign too. Thank you. And that's it.
Motion and a second.
Okay, so I'll make the motion.
Second?
Since this is not on your agenda, you want to move the emergency first?
Okay, move the emergency.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passed.
And
And-
then
And the motion.
the motion to
Motion to
adopt.
sign for every commissioner to sign the letter.
Okay,
Second.
got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Chairman?
Motion passed.
And if we could, as well as doing the hard copies for everybody, I think it's important that everything goes electronically as well today.
Yep.
Yeah, needs to be done
Yep,
today.
so that's his plan. So he's going to send out today after it's signed electronically and send the hard copy too,
Good.
to each one of those. You
Okay.
good?
Yep.
All right, great. Thank you. That's it for me.
Ms. Starkey?
I have a couple of things. Yes, Jack and I attended the transportation, the MPO, is that AC? Is that what it's
AC,
called?
yeah, MPO AC.
The class, it was fantastic, and they had the largest class they've ever had. I think there were 22 or 23 of us, commissioners and city council people from around the state. And I found it extremely informative. I've already emailed off Secretary Gwynn some ideas and places to look for money. So I would highly recommend others taking it when it comes again. I think they offer it 2 times a year? Two
Yes.
times a year. And our MPO pays for the registration fee. And I believe they do it in Orlando and Tampa. And Jack, you can go into more detail if you want. I also sent you all some information. I've been working with the Urban Land Institute to try and get public officials able to participate in some of their events at a much reduced cost. You know, it's interesting, we sit up here and we have to make decisions that are really planning decisions without maybe some really knowledge of why some things are important or why we are steering density or whatever. And so ULI is a great place to go look at best projects and to learn best practices and to see how other areas are dealing with issues in a really innovative way. And they are having their big meeting in Orlando, I think it's next week actually. And they have put on their agenda this year a workshop for public officials with a reduced rate, and I was trying to find it here. Michelle, can you pull that up? Stuart Gibbons sent it to me, and I forwarded it to all of you guys, but I don't know if I did an email. I can't find the email. It is either Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll send it to you again. It's something like $80, and it's a whole day at the ULI meeting in Orlando. So I would really hope that we could get some commissioners over there, and I really applaud ULI for doing this. We'll all be better when we have more knowledge. So if any of you can make that, we'll send that email out again. Then, as you know, in trying to improve the neighborhoods in southwest Pasco County, we have a situation that we've been working with Holiday Lake Estates. It's one of those neighborhoods where they have no HOA. It's a voluntary civic association, and they're working really hard to bring that neighborhood up. And One Community Now, which is a 501c3 that is membership comes from a lot of churches in the area, plus others have come together to help out there, and they are helping them with their clubhouse, and our community development office is helping them with the grant to rebuild or strengthen their clubhouse. It's fallen into great disrepair. One of the ideas they had there to help their citizens is to use their parking lot, which is really big, as a place where the residents who live in Holiday Lakes can park their commercial vehicles, because that is a, kind of a blue-collar, working-class neighborhood, and they are not allowed to park their working vehicles in their driveways, and so they've come up with this innovative idea that they would let them park their work trucks in the clubhouse parking lot for a very small fee, which I think is great. The problem is, as you know, that clubhouse has no revenue because it's been shut down for a year. So, and will be still shut down for another 6 months. So I'm asking if we could help them out by waiving the conditional use permit fee for the portion of their clubhouse parking lot. What they're doing is they're just changing the zoning to allow them to park commercial vehicles there. And so it's just an administrative thing, but it comes out to $1,630. So I'm asking if we could help them out by waiving that fee so that they can park commercial trucks in their parking lot. And if you've been to their clubhouse, it's hidden from view. It's surrounded on all four sides. It won't be a detriment to the community, but it'll help those residents.
That's a motion, I'll second it.
You're not waiving the fee, you're paying the fee with general fund revenue.
Yeah, with general fund.
Okay, just want to be clear about that.
We're going to pay it from
Okay.
general fund?
Yeah,
It's a general fund,
1630.
isn't
I think there's some things that aren't general fund
Okay.
in there. That would be cleaner, just
It's
do it that
cleaner.
way, whether we
That's
move money or not.
We're giving the money back to ourselves, by the way.
Yeah.
So,
Correct.
So we got a motion and a second?
yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passed.
Thank you.
Is that everything?
Yeah.
Okay, this time we'll take R1.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate you. This is the one I'm using to move the presentation. Thank you. All right. Joey Resnick, Premier Community Healthcare Group CEO. I appreciate your time this morning. I'm just coming back to providing an update for our request for support. And I know there's been some questions regarding the request for the low-income pool and what the match means. So I'm going to try to keep it simple, keep it short. Any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer. So we'll go ahead and get started. My presentation somewhere. It's up. There you go. Thank you. So just as a reminder for our mission is that we provide accessible healthcare services to all. We do not turn anybody away based on financial ability to pay. In addition to that, our vision is a community where everyone is healthy. So specifically, straight to our request of the $350,000 that falls under the low-income pool, IGT. The IGT is intergovernmental transfers, and it allows us to get matching funds. ACA uses those to pull down federal money, and you can go through the bullets. We've been asked, all the other FQHCs across the state are doing the same as us to try to maximize our money for the federal government. Our specific request at the very bottom, you see that it brings $1.59 on the match from the federal government for each IGT dollar that is invested. So our 350 equals into the 556, 500 is what our request does. What does that mean to us and to the residents of our county? Is that it provides more access in healthcare funds to improve access. It bridges the gap for uninsured patients. We will continue to expand services as we have before. We just added a substance abuse program, and we're adding 2 licensed clinical social workers to that program as well. That is located in Zephyr Hills. We are an alternative, less costly than the ERs. We have a couple partnerships in the county that allow our patients from the hospitals when they're discharged to come to our facilities. We can manage those patients, and we have data that shows from a hospital perspective that's a lot less costly for us to take care of them than go to the ERs. And lastly is just an investment into healthy residents and a healthy community. Our sources of funding, which I think is important to have a little bit of conversation about, is that we are looking to, and we diversify our revenue. So our revenue comes from, 36% comes from the federal government, from our grant, and then we also collect patient services revenue. You can see all of the different types of revenue and diversity that we're trying to do, and this goes into that with the IGT forming that as well. We just did our 3rd annual giving campaign internally. We had 100% of our board members participate in our fundraising, which says a lot about our board and what it does and what they mean to our group. Impact. So last year, from a patient perspective, we saw a little over 34,000 patients and had a...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Joe,
sir.
can you just go back, if you would go back to the fundraising stuff?
Sure.
For a second. You say that, obviously, if a hospital's not treating it under ER, we save a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
Are the hospitals helping you much as far as your fundraising goes?
From a fundraising perspective, it's been a little, we have engaged, but not fully not really asked yet, because we really wanted to get it internally done first and then roll it out. We'll be doing that next year. I have Chair Pollack here. That is Baycare.
Okay.
So from a perspective of partnership, though, I do want to mention that we do have a hospital, a part of that ER diversion, that pays for the first visit of that patient from the ER to us. And that's the data that we have tracked to show how many patients actually stay with us and don't go back to the ER.
Okay. With, like, Bayonet Point Hospital, Regional Medical Center,
That's a good point.
your place is probably about 3.5 miles away from where they are. And if a Hicks Road ever continues all the way through, it'll be a direct shot right up that side road. And I thought is to actually run a bus transit route there eventually if we ever get to that point. But have they helped you?
I mean, I want to comment from a, go ahead, come on up.
Please state your name and address when you come up.
So our partnership, good morning, I'm Cheryl Pollack, Chief Development and Communications Officer for Premier. Our partnership with Bayonet Point actually started years ago by allowing our navigator to be placed in the hospital. Since that time, we've mainly had a referral relationship, and I work directly with Kurt Conover, their marketing director, to sponsor some of the health events that we have. They have not given direct funds for patient care yet. That's a relationship building process that we're continuing to nurture. So, but they have sponsored health events, and they have allowed us to build a referral relationship between their care team members and the emergency department as well as case management.
I mean, if you take people out of their emergency rooms, they can make revenue on their other things and people that can pay.
Correct.
And let's face it, a lot of people that don't have insurance, they go there just because it's the one place they know they can get care. So maybe working together, we can kind of say, look, we've got to come up with this money here.
Right.
We'd rather have us all working and chipping in to kind of help out.
And we've been able to use the successful example from Baycare with Advent Health and sharing that model with Trinity and Bayonet Point. I think, again, it is more of a timing issue to really help our hospital partners see that the small investment will yield greater dividends, savings on their end, and allow us to ensure that their uninsured patients have a medical home.
Okay. Yeah, any events you want to do to try to tie them all in, I'm happy to try to help here as well. I'm sure the rest of the board members, will do the same thing to try to help generate
Absolutely,
that private
Commissioner.
money to come
We'll
in.
take full advantage of that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Moore?
Good points, Commissioner Mariano, because I was thinking the same thing. I know we've had conversations, we had conversations, 2 years ago? And
Absolutely.
there were discussions with some of the hospital providers, looking at some ways to help fund this, but the matching wasn't going to work and meet the criteria under ACA, if I'm not correct, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and I've said this to many others that have approached me over the last several months. And what I always suggest to nonprofits is exhaust every possible resource, and government is the last resort. And thinking about working with the hospitals, as Commissioner Mariano just said, I think it would behoove you to, over the next several months, or actually I should say over the next couple months, because you need to get ready for next year, is to come up with some type of metrics that show how much money you're possibly saving the hospitals. If you're saving, and I'm going to say if, but I know
Sure.
that you're saving millions of dollars to some of the hospital providers around the county, show measurables, show how you're doing that, and go to them and say, we cannot continue this program without your assistance, and ask them for the money. I do not see why they would turn you down. If you can show them that you're saving this specific hospital $800,000, $2 million, $1.5 million a year from diverting them from the ER, or readmissions, which is very important, and that's where they get hit hard now on the rehab, right? I mean, that's where they get hit hardest on these readmissions for these chronic patients. And I won't get into the weeds too deep, but as you probably know, especially under Medicare now with these readmissions, it gets to the point where the hospitals aren't getting reimbursed at all if they continue to be readmitted. In Medicaid, correct. Worse with Medicaid, right? I just use Medicare more, it's more my knowledge base. But so I would highly suggest that you reach out now, again, in the next couple of months. But you need to come up with those metrics and come up with those measurables that show how much money. You should be able to do that look at how many, hold on one second, your patient load, how many people are coming into your facilities and where they're located, look at the location of each one of these patients and, take the demographics into consideration and show them these are probably going to your hospital, these are probably going to your hospital, and then you'll get a good idea of what the ask maybe should be, right? So is it fair to say maybe ask to contribute possibly 10% of that cost or 20% of what that may be if they're having to carry this load? Wouldn't be a bad ask. I think that would get you far over and above of what your ask is today.
And I appreciate your suggestion. The reason why I was nodding is that we've started that process, so we're not waiting.
Okay,
so,
good.
For example, we've met with the group that provides hospitalist care for all of Advent Health,
Okay.
Which is called Pioneer Medical, and we are going to present to them data. So you're correct. What talks is data. Data speaks. And so we're in the process of putting that together. So the reason I was nodding is that we're not waiting. And as we mature as an organization, because we're still maturing, we will continue to try to diversify where our asks are and to do a better job of showing where the money goes and the impact. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is if we get X, what does that mean to, what is the impact? And we do that all the time. So for example, with the United Way grant that we received, we just don't have to do any more quarterly report, but we'd have to show an impact. On a dental grant, we can show you how many dental services did that grant provide to each patient. So we do that, and you are correct. So I appreciate that, but I did want,
No, and
we're
I
not
appreciate
waiting.
it, yeah.
And I will tell you, it's, as much as we talk, as much as we knock on doors, it's a different, because when you talk about federally qualified health centers, some people will tune out because they hear that federally qualified, and they think that we don't have that need.
Right.
So,
It's all numbers,
sure.
and I know it's great you're meeting with the hospitalist group, but at the same time, you need to be setting the meetings up with the CEOs of these hospitals and having those conversations with them, in my opinion. But it's all numbers, though.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to, numbers. You can write it up and do the song and dance
All day long.
all day long, but you need to show
Sure.
the numbers and the measurables.
You got it.
Mr. Wells?
Appreciate it.
On that note, real quick, what exactly does Baycare fund you? How much?
All right. Take care.
So in kind, they actually fund diagnostics and laboratory services, $50,000 a year. They fund us $80,000 for a health coach, which is the person that helps people with chronic illnesses such as diabetes manage their health. And those are the main two programs. So in kind, again, they give us office space at their hospital. We have a staff member that is positioned in their emergency department that directly connects with uninsured patients or patients that do not have a medical home, schedules their appointment post-discharge, and gets them established at Premier for a medical home.
Okay, and the only reason I ask, I've met with them, especially after we had the meeting on the opioid epidemic and had some of the providers there and discussing the future and having to address this, from uninsured, folks to just transient and so forth. And we've discussed it, and again, they do all need to step up. We are all partners. We all want the same thing at the end of the day. We want to help others. And back to Commissioner Moore, we'll help, and I've been candid with you from the beginning, and thank you for giving quarterly updates, making time to sit down with me and every commissioner, I assume, because we want to know where the money goes. I've got folks that ask me, I want to be able to say, hey, here's the return on investment, here's where it's going, they're expanding here. But Baycare is a great example of partnership, and everybody, like Bayonet Point, I've known Kurt since I was a kid. I know he's in Rotary. Kurt does so much in the community, so I'm kind of disappointed that they don't do more, quite frankly, unless you just never asked them.
We've actually met with all hospital CEOs.
I'm certain we all don't mind helping. Again, we're all in this together.
We will maximize on that.
And I'm not saying I'm against giving you guys, because I think you've done a great job of informing us where the money's going and what it's going to go to, and I support that. But we want to help you, because if we can get everybody to give you $350,000 every hospital, then think about what we can do to help those in need. So that's what it's about for me. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Wells.
Ms. Stark?
And thanks for coming and making this presentation today. And this is the only medical facility in southwest Pasco County. Yep. There's nobody else, right? The Helen Ellis, there was a Helen Ellis walk-in center, but as far as a clinic of any type, I don't think there's any other one. So this is important to the residents in that community. My only frustration is that, as I said before, to get there, if you don't have a car, it's a 2-hour bus ride. And so, they don't own that property, they're leasing it over there on Seven Springs Boulevard. And when the grant came in from the feds, it went to the property in Zephyr Hills because they owned that property and they expanded that property. But certainly those opioid beds could have been very well used in southwest Pasco County where the hot zone is, but because they don't have a facility that they own and could expand like that, the money all went to the one side. So, or beds or whatever it is that you did to help the opioid folks. But I'm in support of this, and I still want to help you try and find a permanent home on the west side.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
And I didn't want to stop doing the presentation. If you just want to, well, you got a couple of good slides coming up still, I think, that are good to touch on. So, but I just wanted to talk on the fundraiser part, and I think you've heard we're all happy to help you. We don't want to just commit our money to say, to go right now, but I'm delighted that you're here right now.
Thank you.
You give us plenty of time to try to work with you to try to help get your funding up. And one way or another, we want to take care of you. So your being here today is a great step forward, and this dialogue has been helpful for all of us to know where you're at and we can help you achieve your goal. Okay. But if you would finish the slides.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I started with this. You can see the 34,000 patients, a little over 126,000 visits. Average patient coming in 3.5 to 4 times. So here's our Pasco County patient data. You can see the uninsured rate of the 44%, the 36% Medicaid, which is on the left-hand side. You can see our payer mix. But then if you look on the right hand, you can see the patient poverty level, who we service, and our percentage of patients that fall into those categories. So you see the 53% is the 0 to 100, the 17% is the 101 to 200, and the 30% is the 200%. So that's where this money goes. That's it.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So a question probably for staff. This budget cycle, our obligation for Medicaid is what? What's that number this year?
Oh, it's over 10 million now. It went up by about $400,000 this year.
So it went up about-
I can get you the exact number if you give me a few minutes to
Yeah,
research.
if you could.
I have it somewhere. I just,
Kathy could probably pull it up, I would assume, real quick. So, again, you know, unfortunately, we get back to, you know, our unfunded mandates. You know, at one time, majority of these costs were covered by the state, and supposedly there's taxes cut, but in reality, that it just gets passed down to local governments to cover those costs. So, you know, put it on our backs to figure out how to pay for things. So, you know, just as a reminder, and I've stated this before, is that we're having to put more in the pot already, okay? And it's not our choice how much we're putting in that we're having to put that money in the pot. We're required by the state, and we're mandated by the state, and if we don't do it, we're in trouble. So we have to do it. So here's what I will say, okay? You know, I was supportive, you know, 2 years ago because you were in a bind, okay, at that time. I'm going to, you know, and we haven't gotten to the point of talking the money portion just yet, but what I'm going to ask you is that please follow through on these, you've already started, but follow through on these suggestions, because I would assume, and any help we can be, I'm sure the commissioners, you've already heard people offer to help, that next year you'll be able to get this money from the hospital providers, okay, to meet this match, okay, or to meet what you need to do this, okay? I mean, it really needs to happen, okay, because I don't see how they would not want to help, you know, provide those funds to save possibly millions and millions of dollars. So I will just ask you of that. I have confidence in you that you'll be able to do that. And you're asking the 350 again this year.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And for a little context, they were in our budgets in the past, but they didn't get the request in last year, so they,
I'm familiar.
yeah, they didn't get funded.
Yeah. So what the year before, if you remember the year before last, it was a last minute ad because of what went on. Things changed and there was that last minute ad. So it was not previously in our budget. We actually put that in.
Absolutely.
At the final hour at that moment. And then this last year, things didn't get in because the request didn't come in on time. So we want to support. We know you do great things for the county. I'm a little leery of giving the whole 350 just because of I think there could have been possibility of some more being done. And again, I've said this to everybody that's come and asked and come to my door this year. But I'll just, I'll listen to what the rest of the board have to say. I do want to assist. I just don't know if the whole 350 is in my wheelhouse.
And I agree. We want to make sure we get you to that point. We're willing to help you on the outside. We do think the private sector should be stepping up as well. So, I mean, we've got time. We don't have to make the decision today, but I think you see support. We appreciate those numbers up there that you've shown us, the great work that you're doing. So you're a strong value. We just want to help you get there. But again, I think the private sector should be stepping up. I do have a question. Maybe Kathy Pearson could help. Especially maybe for Southwest Pasco, where there's no hospital down there. Wouldn't that area qualify for CDBG funding? Could we fund them with CDBG to help them get a structure?
That's a good question.
That is a great question, and I think it can be.
Kathy Pearson, Assistant County Administrator, Public Services. Joey and I have talked about that. Yes, we have. Our applications are closed for this year, but once he finds a location, we already did talk about CDBG funds. He would be eligible for that, yes.
So there's no way to change the application we have in play right now?
The application's closed on May 18th, and the review process is going to be happening this week, Thursday and Friday. So, yes, it is too late.
Is it a self-imposed deadline or one that's controlled by the state or the feds?
I'm sorry?
Is it a self-imposed deadline by May 18th, or is it?
Well, we have to
by the
have it in
state?
by August, the middle of August. It still has to come before you all. So
We
I
have time.
think it's planning on coming in to you all in August, and we have to file it with the state by August. So
So my question is, though, is it a self-imposed deadline by May 18th, or is it something that's
we
federally
we
mandated?
did that to get our applications and our process in place, to get to you to approve, to get to file to the state. So we made that May
So we
deadline.
could change that if we chose to.
Well, I mean, it's an administrative deadline in order to get you a recommendation by a date so that you can approve it prior to their state deadline. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, we're going through it, we're going to prioritize it, bring it to the board for review, and then approval. So there is a state deadline, and there's a process involved in that, and so,
And it's August.
Let me,
well, we want to be at a board meeting in August, is the goal.
since we have some time, let me, and the sheriff already talked about this publicly, let me tell you something else that's going on that this could tie into in a bigger picture. As you know, I think I've told you there's a 4-county effort that Baycare has started with all the hospitals and commissioners from Polk, Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough, and I'm the representative from Pasco. The sheriff is on this task force. There's about 40 or 50 of us there's business people, there's providers, there are elected officials, and we are working on solutions for a 4-county area for the mental health crisis, which we feel ties in with the opioid overdose crisis. One of the solutions that I think is rapidly gaining steam in our group is to have a standalone facility for mental health, people who are having a mental health crisis. So kind of like, and I want Commissioner Moore to hear, since he's in the medical field. Hey, Mike, I want you to hear this, if you don't mind. So one of the ideas we're throwing around in this group is to do a standalone mental health walk-in clinics, kind of, like, because right now, when someone's having a mental health crisis, they are taken to the emergency room, and what do they do for mental health? It's the wrong place. So our idea is to set up this network of standalone buildings, and our thoughts are, or I threw out there to the group that as we're in this opioid lawsuit, that a possible funding source could be settlement money from the opioid lawsuits, and the state will be getting a settlement, and the counties will be getting a settlement. So I'm wondering if we look at a bigger picture, and if our mental health facility could be packaged with your facility in some kind of building in Southwest Paso, because we definitely, our thoughts in this committee is that we put these where the need is the greatest, obviously, and statistics will show you Southwest Hillsborough County is in need of something like this. So it's a thought as we look at even a bigger picture than just a community health facility, but we do this mental health facility that maybe we work together on some kind of building that has both in it.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. So let me go back to what Commissioner Mariano mentioned a minute ago, back to the CDBG fundings. And I know you've worked through this, and I hate to put a wrench in what you've already done, but so from my understanding, there's a number of projects that are going to be coming forth, quite a few projects, right? And you're going to ask us our opinion on which ones to move forward with. Is that correct?
We will rank them and prioritize them,
Right.
and then you will get our recommendation, and
Correct.
then you obviously have the ability as a board to
Okay.
shift and adjust.
Okay. So I have a feeling that maybe some of those projects, we may obviously, as a board, there's a possibility that we could agree that things should be possibly reprioritized. I think taking Commissioner Mariano's suggestion would be good to add that in now and add that to the list. I know it's going to be a little more work, but it's very important. Obviously, we're when it comes, we're still in the budget cycle here. So
for clarification, if you're asking for the 350 to be funded through CDBG, that is not allowed because it's an intergovernment transfer. We cannot use CDBG
So it
funds
asked.
on top of what he's going to
Yeah,
receive. It's two federal funding. So
Mr.
that
Chairman?
is what we're asking for CDBG. It can't be.
That's not what I was
Yeah, I
asking.
don't think that's what
Okay.
it
We were
is.
trying to get a
That's what I thought maybe
structure.
he was asking.
Yeah.
We want to help, we don't have them try to find a structure that they can go build a facility so that if we try to get some other federal grants, they'll be in position to do so. And as Commissioner Starkey points out, if there's nothing down in Southwest Pasco, it sounds like that's the place we should be looking. Can we use CDBG money into this cycle here? And if that May 18th deadline can be extended to, we can try to incorporate something to work it timely. So obviously, you'd have to move really quick to do something to you, but can we incorporate that, let them present to us, I think is a good idea.
So let me jump in here, and I really, really appreciate it. As you guys know, we're an open book. We're not ready to make that ask on the capital yet.
Okay.
Like Commissioner Starkey said, we haven't identified a specific property or a building, and I appreciate it. Kathy, and kudos to Dan. Kathy came out and did a visit with us, and I appreciate trying to reopen it, but we're not ready. So even if you said, gave the direction of, can you put something in, we wouldn't make that deadline.
That's okay. And
So-
that's good to
It's
know,
gonna be-
but again.
I mean, and I really, really appreciate
No,
it.
no.
Just like you told me to come back, we'll be ready. I'm going to tell you, we will go after funding. And to one comment on the funding is that, for us, it is that the match is what brings more dollars, as you know. And I don't want you to think that we're coming to you as last resort. Please, I mean, if you look back at the list, we go after grants. We've increased our grant staff, and we're going to increase them again this year to try to go after more dollars. Because from my perspective, the more we diversify revenue, the better off we are, and we don't have to keep coming back.
Right, so, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so I understand what you mean when it comes to the match.
Sure.
Right, so 350, 350, right?
1.59.
Okay, so 1.59, so it's a 3-to-1.
I mean, so it came back.
No,
was-
5.
Like
No.
5 1/4.
Five and a
Like
quarter.
5 and a quarter,
5 and a quarter.
500
Nicole,
plus,
can you go back
over
to that?
500
Okay,
comes
so
back.
on top, okay, gotcha.
We'll go back to the slide
Okay,
that
I
has
don't-
the
Yeah, go
map.
back to
I don't
that one
wanna-
again.
Yeah.
Don't have that one memorized?
That,
It
Yeah,
was like
I don't.
519,
okay,
556.
556.
yeah, 1.59. Yeah, not 1. Yes, okay, 1.5. Gotcha. So the goal, obviously, coming to us for the match, so the goal would be, well, obviously as much as you can do, but
Absolutely.
if you can do 600, you got it covered. Be the same as the match,
100%.
right? Okay.
can you go back to the slide of the numbers? Because I want you
The
to see
pie
his-
charts are the,
the trajectory of his encounters.
of our encounters, right
I
there,
mean, look at that,
the growth.
in the last 3 years,
Well, it's going to continue, we're a growing county, so.
yeah. So-
But it's also, though, the county could grow, and I'm not trying to be argumentative about, but we also have to have the ability to provide those services, and we've increased services.
Yeah.
So we've added, again, for substance abuse in particular, we added a dedicated substance abuse provider in ARMP. We've added we're going to add a care coordinator this year and 2 licensed clinical social workers. So that contributes, I know the county's growing, but it also contributes that we have to be able to expand and provide more services.
Right.
So,
Not going to go down.
And what did you add in Zephyr Hills with the money?
the one I just talked about,
That's
so we
right.
added the substance abuse provider.
Yeah.
And then a licensed clinical social worker. And then some of that, we'd make the investment on our own. So one of those, it didn't cover the entire cost of that whole program for just substance abuse alone. So we contributed that to well financially. So, and then we just put in, HRSA came out, federal government, for a new access point, which is a new primary care access point, which we're going to try to do. Our application was near North Bay Hospital. And then dental, we also went after a competitive grant to expand dental services as well.
That's good, that's
So,
needed.
again, any opportunities that we can get, we will go after. So,
Social work, licensed mental health counselors?
currently, interesting enough, we cannot bill for them. There's actually legislation, FQACs cannot bill for licensed mental health counselors, but there's legislation to change that. So we can only use licensed clinical social workers.
We should
to bill.
support that. Right?
Really?
Wow. Wow.
Can't make that up.
Yes.
I mean,
You could treat them for drugs, but you can't help them.
I mean, I can only tell you what,
Yeah.
state facts, and now, again, we're a
They can do
member.
more. It makes absolutely
I
no
know,
sense.
and we're a member of the Florida Association of Community Health Centers, and we go up to Tallahassee every year to visit, and that's one of the things that we did talk about. Same thing, for example, dental therapists, and so try to increase dental therapists. We're fighting that battle as well. That didn't get passed, but there is specific legislations about licensed mental health counselors.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And there's such a shortage too of those
across the board, from a behavioral health perspective, it is a challenge for us to recruit. We actually, 3 weeks ago, had an offer to one, accepted, and then called us back and said, nah, I don't want to do therapy anymore. I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah,
It's tough. It's really tough.
We appreciate everything you do in our community.
Well, thank you all very much for the time and the support and the suggestions. I appreciate it. Got any questions, always available.
Thank you.
Thanks again. No, thank you.
It's a pleasure, board, at this time.
I don't think this isn't
This
an
is just a
action item this
report.
time.
This was just a report to you.
Yeah, it's just a,
Okay.
Right, and obviously the
All right.
request.
Very good. All right, we'll go back to old business. Mr. Wells.
Thank you. Commissioner Starkey, you sure you only have one thing? I'm not
I
trying to be
reserve the
funny.
right,
That's
I
not
always
like-
reserve the right.
No, you have good stuff, so I'm not making fun, I'm just asking.
No reservations.
We can always, so, real quick, and I'm a little ahead of the game, but I want to make sure everybody has it on their calendar, and I believe Adam's done a good job to making sure you have it. We're having, obviously, we got the scallop season again this year, which is fantastic. We're having the season kickoff press conference on the 19th of July at 10:30 in the morning at the Anclote Boat Ramp. Love to have you be there if you can. I know they have some guides that they're going to hire to bring out some of the news media. There's some bloggers from out of the country coming over to learn more about it and get out their video. So it's going to be
Oh, very
awesome.
cool.
So
That's good.
just, I'll make sure if it's not on your calendar, it will be. So just-
What date is that?
It's July 19th.
Oh,
It's
July
on a
19th.
Friday.
Okay,
So,
She's out of the
I'll be there. Nope, I'll be there.
okay. And just to let you know, Moon Lake Park, and for those of you that are familiar with Moon Lake, and I know we've had several cleanups and communities really come together out there the last 3 years. We just got done, the Parks Department just got done adding a new playground out there that was actually funded by the Health Department. So I just want to let you know, it's another example of us improving our parks. It's a great,
I got
the
too
community
far.
was very involved with, what they wanted with slides and ADA compliant things. And so it was kind of neat that we actually involved. It's the first time I've ever seen us actually do a citizen survey to see what kind of playground they want, which I think makes sense. So I thought that was pretty awesome. As you know, and you all approved it last year, I've had the pleasure of being on the Leadership Tampa Bay class of 2019. We have our graduation next week. It's been a great year. Learned a lot from our Pasco day to being down at Pinellas and Hillsborough. Just a neat thing, 60 classmates, and it really helped me understand us as a region, and I think I helped educate them. So just wanted to let you know on that. And as you all know, I serve as the chairman of the Feeding Pasco Elderly Board. I just got an email that we were awarded $5,000 from Seven Springs Rotary, so I wanted to publicly thank them for that donation. It is definitely needed. Very, very excited about that. And I may have some more news at the next meeting as far as a match, which would be game-changing for Feeding Pasco's Elderly and helping our seniors in Pasco County. And lastly, I don't know if it was last meeting or 2 meetings ago, I'm getting old, we brought up the rental registry ordinance, and I know we've talked about it forever. That's not the name we want to use. We're talking about, and this is the sheriff's office leading the charge on this, with myself and Christy obviously helping, utilities, code, maybe like Citizens Connect rental information portal to where we can actually add the, what's the word I'm looking for, Chase? The false alarm registry will be in this Citizens Connect umbrella. And again, this isn't going to be a punishment. I think at first when we started talking about this rental registry, it was going to be difficult for us to do. I know the last meeting, Commissioner Mariano, I believe you're the only one that really wanted us to have a workshop on it.
No, I do too.
Okay, well, I'd like to see us get moving on this. would like
I
to
haven't
have-
seen what we're moving on, so.
But I would like to have the sheriff's office work with Christie, draft something, sit down with each of you one-on-one, and you make tweaks as you sit down. I think that's a little bit more productive, and we don't have to wait 3 months to get on a workshop. I think it's that important to get this thing going. I know the sheriff's office has got examples where they've had issues in the last 2 weeks where they couldn't find out who the owner was. But Chase, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Commissioner. Chase Daniels, Pasco Sheriff's Office. And yeah, we fully support, whatever the direction of the board is here. I know I think it was last meeting or the meeting before last, it was brought up and there was broad consensus on the board to do something. And I think the position that we are in now is just that desire to have something done. You know, some of the more fine details, I know there were items that were brought up about, you know, requiring trash pickup and things like that. But I think where we would ask for now, and I believe where Commissioner Wells is coming from, is just the ability to get something in. Our IT department stands ready to work on this portal. The idea being that we would like to include in the false alarm ordinance into this portal as well, since we already have a registration mechanism for that, kind of using that same tool for this. But that would be our ask, as Commissioner Wells noted, is to be able to start working on something at this point. And again, we appreciate the board's support on this.
Commissioner?
And the idea, Chairman, is to keep it simple. We can always add things, but I know, you know, I met with his IT folks. They can link in with code, link in with utilities to where Sandra's able to add things. Obviously, there's certain information we're not going to be able to see on your end, but this is something that is free. It's going to help them immediately, and the sooner we can move along with it. Again, I don't want to have to wait 3 months to get on the schedule for a workshop, because I think we all 99% agree that on everything, but I would just like to have them work on this like immediately and sit down with each of you in the next couple of weeks to get your thoughts, because they are important, and just move forward with it.
So I was the one that initially brought this here with Christie, and the sheriff gave me his draft rental registry ordinance that he had worked on. And I appreciate Commissioner Wells is a realtor, so he's taken this and moved on with it. But I can tell you, I bring up what I knew of what we were working on in my meetings and my HOAs all over Southwest Pasco, and they very much want to hold bad landlords accountable for what's going on in their neighborhood. So
Absolutely.
I have no idea what's going on now in the rental registry. I've never seen a draft of it, how it may, so I'm in the dark about what's going on, so.
So, and I can answer, Chairman, if that's all right with you. Commissioner, I don't believe, at least to my knowledge, I have not seen a draft either. The knowledge that I have comes from the board discussion where I believe it was brought up at the last meeting. I know we were asked by Commissioner Wells to attend a meeting with the Board of Realtors and Property Managers as well, where the idea was discussed to make this a free registry as opposed to some other ordinances that require fees, but instead impose code penalties for those who don't register, you know, after a set amount of time.
So what's important to me, and I think to the constituents of my district, is that, and I think in my philosophy, that if someone has multiple properties and is in the business of the rental home business, and their business causes detrimental effects to the residents around them, they should be responsible for the cost to the taxpayers of the consequences of not being a responsible landlord. So that is really important to me in this ordinance. I don't see why I should be paying the cost for I, as a taxpayer, should be paying the cost for multiple calls from our code enforcement department and the sheriff's department to a home that is wreaking havoc on a neighborhood by renting to prostitutes and drug dealers and people who won't take their trash and put it in a proper receptacle, who make their neighbors unable to enjoy their own backyard. These are things that are going on in my neighborhoods that I am adamant that we need to hold the landlords accountable for.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Commissioner Starkey, when you did bring this up years ago, I had, my first reservations were about the people that are behaving, that don't have trouble about getting in the registry. The clarification meeting with the Sheriff's Department after I had brought it up, after you had brought it up, was kind of like, okay, let's go after these trouble ones, just like you just detailed. You're perfectly right on the money. That's where I want to see the focus go, not just to do a broad scope of getting everybody to go register their properties. I don't care about everybody. If they're not causing a problem, I don't even want to know.
Right.
Just let them go. But if I get problem people that are causing, wreaking havoc on neighborhoods, I want to go after those and get them fast. And then give you the power to go find out who's living in the house, what, you know, who's supposed to live there, who's not there, and then you have the chance to just kick them out if we need to. All those things that I want to do, right in that whole concept. So let's keep it simple, but let's focus so we can take care of all the problem stuff.
So I guess all I'm asking, thank you, Chairman, all I'm asking the board today is if I can move forward with them to do the things we discussed today, which we've already started working on, get a draft together, they can sit down with each of you one-on-one, listen to more ideas, add, delete, and then get this back to us sooner than, I just don't want to be talking about 6 months from now because
Yeah.
it's a life safety issue. The sheriff's office, again, they need to know, and it may just be a one-time person. So I think they need to have everyone sign up. And again, utilities has, if you saw the past due amounts, and I don't know the number, it's millions that owe us money because we don't know the renter, we didn't know it changed, we don't know who the landlord was. So Sandra's all in favor of this too, where folks won't be able to get a utilities until we have all the information, which will be linked to them. So we're going to be able, there's a lot of great things that we're doing. We're going to be able to work together with it. I just want to make sure at least I can get permission to work with them to get this thing rolling and meet with you in the next month so we can get more ideas, which I think is great, and get this thing going. Because there's draft ordinances out there, but we want to change it. We want to make the fines large. We want to, that way, it's a life safety thing. That's what it's about for these guys and girls.
So if I can comment to that, and this is great, we have time and we're in an open forum, and so we can discuss this a little bit to give all our staff a little heads up. So the one concern I have when we say fines is that we don't get to keep that money. That money goes to the state. So I want to use a different word or a different penalty, if possible. I'm looking at my county attorney, so that the money stays here to help us run this program, because otherwise we're just, sending our money up to Tallahassee into a black hole. So let's be cognizant of, if it's a code enforcement fine, that's money out the window to us. So there needs to be another way to hold a landlord accountable financially where the money stays here in Pasco County.
We've had this discussion multiple times. I mean, it's still my recommendation that as far as code enforcement compliance goes, the system you are currently operating in, regardless of where the end fine goes, is the most effective if you're trying to get compliance.
No, I'm saying, so if we have a landlord who's had, say, 3 code calls in 3 months, whatever, then he has to register, or whatever the term is, get some kind of license, whatever we want to use the legal term that allows him to pay into a fund that we use to cover our costs for getting the money back to the citizens here for the costs he's incurring on our departments, like we're funding their business.
So your concept is that the registration fee would be large, but it would not be for everybody.
It gets triggered.
It gets triggered, much like the false alarm ordinance, that you get a couple of passes and then you start getting tagged.
Nice.
And the false alarm ordinance will be under this same Citizens Connect portal.
If I could offer my 2 cents on that, Commissioner. Our one concern with that approach would be that quite often we respond to a property and it may be 3 in the morning. I use the example, I believe it's now a couple of months old, where we responded to a conflict at 3 in the morning, didn't know the property was even a rental property. We've got 2 people both on site who are in an argument and in a conflict, and we don't have the ability at 3 in the morning to figure out who owns that property, to know who actually belongs there, who has the authority to trespass, things like that. That is why we were pushing more of the broad scope, everyone register for free, so that way we could get that information. So whenever we're out at a property, it may be our first time out there, but it's a serious call. That way we then have that information.
And I think we can work with the property appraiser's office, because if you're not homesteaded, you're probably a rental. So that's pretty easy to figure that out. And I'm fine with everyone doing this freebie, but once you're defined as a bad actor, you're going to trigger something that if you have multiple, and I'm saying this for multiple people who have multiple properties, you're in a business, and why are the taxpayers of Pasco County subsidizing the well-being of your business. That's the problem I have. So I think we can do what you want and what we need to do to protect our taxpayers.
Chairman. And the idea, that's the idea, because right now, the code enforcement, when it comes to, we're not on the same page. They don't know who they went out and visited.
Right.
They don't know who, but we might have the information, but they don't know that. Doing this is going to make all of us, and again, it starts with Sandra, because they go into utilities. For a new renter, we are gonna get that information before we set the utility up. So it's going to help us, it's gonna trigger to where we're able to find these folks. And again, it's free. It's not gonna cost anything to the residents. And we still need to meet with the other board of realtors on the east side. I have no doubt they'll be in favor, but we wanna listen to them and see what their thoughts are, because we wanna make sure it's successful. And again, it's life safety. That's, to me, when you go out somewhere, you need to know who it is and who you're dealing with, not guessing, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I mean, if an officer's going out there and they want to find out if it's homesteaded or not, property appraiser site's pretty easy to get to. They can figure that out for that 3 a.m. call. But as far as the overall registry, let's get to the numbers. What do you think it would take for time-wise to register all the non-homesteaded properties? And what do you think it would be cost-wise to put that program together?
So where we are now, and Commissioner, to address the first point, the issue is, so what we are finding in some of these cases, those 3 a.m. phone calls is, yes, the property appraiser's website is very helpful, but unfortunately, the registered owner under the property appraiser's website may be an LLC out of Connecticut, for instance. So we
But
don't.
that tells you that's probably a rental.
Absolutely, but then we don't necessarily know who actually
Right to be
belongs
there.
there, who has the rental agreement, and who actually has the authority to trespass an individual, for instance. That aside, we believe that we can incorporate this within existing resources. Like I said, our IT department has already established that false alarm registry, and we imagine this following much in that same idea. I know we've had some discussions with the property appraiser's office, and I know.
I forgot to mention Gary, but yes, we
Yes,
met
sir.
with Gary Joyner. He absolutely wants to help with those kind of circumstances.
Absolutely, yeah, and his idea is because he can access that list of all those non-homestead properties, he's even volunteered to send a letter to every non-homestead property in Pasco County once this registry goes into effect, saying they have to register, here's how you register, things like that. But again, our real desire is to have that ability at that 3 a.m. phone call whenever there's an LLC out of Connecticut, to have some kind of local contact that we can make touch with and say, look, we've got 2 individuals on this property, they're in a fight, one of them needs to go somewhere tonight, who actually has the authority, who do you have the agreement with? And unfortunately, that's just not information we can get right now.
Okay, so we're good with that, moving forward with this, like immediately? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chase.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you, Chase. And one more thing, I know we had discussed a couple meetings ago about the garbage pickup and folks being able to drop or bring stuff to the incinerator for free, and I know we do have some recycling centers around the county where they can drop stuff off.
They can bring it to, I think, to the transfer station, residential use.
I guess my thing is, how can we educate folks to let them know? I mean, I know we discussed it, but how as a board and the county can we educate folks to let them know they can bring in so many bags of garbage each day to the incinerator for free? Can we put it on a utility bill, maybe one month?
Well, we can do
I'm just
something,
thinking
or
about
we can
how
put
we
it out
can
on social
educate folks to
media.
let them know, because I don't think, we didn't even know. So I'm sure that they don't, and I think it's, I don't know if we're seeing an uptick since we've had the conversation. I know I've got emails on it, but.
It's
I
a
think-
long way
Yeah.
from Holiday.
I know it is, but then we need to figure out, kind of like we're doing the community cleanups, is it something that we do as a county, and every quarter we have an area that we just bring dumpsters and say, we're gonna do this to help the community? I'm fine with having a conversation about that, and I think the haulers would, work with us on that. I don't want to speak for them, but I think that they would be partners to help us with that, maybe donate bins, and because it's going to help everybody. It's going to help them, it's going to help us, it's going to help the property values, everything. So just,
Can I expound on that?
yeah, of course.
Expound or expand, I'm not sure which. Expand. I did have an engineer look at the footprint of the facility in Tarpon Springs to see how big their transfer station was, and because when I asked staff about one in Southwest Pasco, they said 40 acres. But the one in Tarpon Springs is under 6 or 7 acres. And so I would still like to see if we can find something somewhere in that area that could accommodate that. Seems to me like there may be some property off of Grand Boulevard, potentially, that maybe we can use, so I don't want to give up on something down there.
No, I absolutely don't disagree. We've got a transfer station that's out in Dade City. I mean,
Yeah.
it would only make sense to have something if we
Yeah.
have some property, even if it's, who cares if it's half the size or a quarter the size, it's still able, folks are easier to dump than they are now, because now we know what they're doing. They're illegally dumping, you know.
Frankly, I
so.
think that just like we do with parks and libraries, we should have transfer station zones, and it should be a best practice to have one so close to a population size. And, you know, we haven't looked at it that way, but I think we should have that.
Okay, that's all. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Brown?
I'll just touch on that a little bit, because we're going to be talking about the recycling later on today. You know, maybe it's something we don't incorporate in, but others do, and maybe before the 1:30 meeting, we can actually take a look at what others do as far as like picking up big items that I know some counties do have. We don't have that in play right now. Maybe it is something we need to bring up. And
Well, I know the cities do it, like, I think they do once a year.
okay, so maybe once a year. Like I said, I think if we have that comparison number for this afternoon's discussion, it could be real helpful.
Okay.
Yep, agree.
All right.
All right, I've got a few things going on. I want to say, yesterday we had the groundbreaking for the Veterans Park Memorial Splash Pad creation station, was it?
It's in, no, investigation
Investigation
station.
station, I'm sorry. And the Commissioner Starkey and Clerk O'Neill were both there. Representative Zeker and Representative Mario both were there. The place was packed with people that were just like thrilled to see this coming on. And, you know, just kind of standing out, you see the fields that are out there, you know, whether someone's playing baseball, soccer, it gets hot in the summer, it gets hot later on. And for the little kids to probably watching the bigger kids playing, I think having that tool of like, you know, when we get done, we'll go to the splash pad, or before we go to the splash pad. When we did our survey a few years back about what we can do better for our parks and rec, the splash pads were at the top of the list as far as things to do. And I want to say the investigation station folks took an idea from 7 years ago from Susan Pridgeon. Lisa Campos grabbed that idea, went on with it, and what they did was they raised all the money to go build the structure. Now, I think that's a tremendous testament to the community saying we want to see these done. I think our community folks voting the way they did on the referendums to say they want better parks, libraries as well, means that we should really be taking a close look at this. I think it's good to have each community kind of step out and put some ideas, maybe put their stamp on it a bit, but I think this is something that we should be looking at 6 or 7, as Keith Wiley mentioned yesterday. 6 or 7 of these could fit in the county real easy and really help our quality of life for all our families. So as much as this is the first one, and I wanted to put a plug in for Hudson Rotary, which gave a whole bunch of money for it, but even the West Side 6 talk about doing other projects like this. I think community-wide, we should be starting to look at this as something that's quick to do, easy to do. And I've asked the contractor to work very close with all the people that are building this park to go put something together for us to come back to say, look, we could go build one of these in every single park. Here's what the cost would be, and let it be an unsolicited RFI, or request for proposal, and bring something back to us, because I think it was that good, and that it meant that much to the people that were there.
You know, I really like the splash pads, but that's a capital expense, and we have so little capital money. I mean, if the public wants to, private sector wants to do it, but, or, you know, maybe Keith will come back to us on a capital plan for parks, and this might help push that forward, but I don't know where the money is for something like that.
And like I said, the communities might even step up and do them, all of them,
Yeah.
but I think we need to get something, come back to at least put something on a template to say, okay, here's how much you need, here's how much it takes, here's what we're willing to go do to help. But
can
I think
always
something
ask.
along that line.
We can always ask the people to contribute.
Yeah, okay. Next thing, on impact fees, Habitat for Humanity is going to be going to the school board. I'm actually going to be trying to coordinate a pre-meeting with them about trying to get them to cut their fees down for the west side of the area. They are looking at numbers, they're doing 75 units a year. They just broke ground yesterday in a project for 75 units in Pinellas, kind of like our project. But
shoot,
I will
thought
tell
they
you.
were done in Pinellas.
I'll tell you, that project, there's 75 units are going to go build. I don't know what they're paying for fees, but I will tell you, they're revolted as far as the amount of money that we're going to be charging for impact fees. I told them I was going to set up the meeting to try to help them work with the school board. I think I'll get more information as we bring our staff into to find out what we can do. But
They get-
those fees are gonna keep us from building affordable housing.
Don't they get a credit for the impact fee that was on that property where a house already stood?
Well, for us, we're in good shape.
Good point.
For us, we're in good shape.
They
But I don't know
shouldn't be
about the school
paying.
board.
No,
Yes.
they shouldn't be paying school impact
The
fees.
mobility fees, you've already reduced as part of your ordinance, and if it's redevelopment
pay
of an
those
existing
anyway.
house, there's also a time frame that house has to be occupied.
But
But the large part of their impact fees is the school board impact fees, it's not the other impact.
but there already was a home there. So
But
I
there's a-
don't think if you remodel or rebuild a house, you pay them over again. I don't think so.
So we're gonna be looking through all these things. I wanted to kind of alert you to it, because it is gonna be a conversation. But they're very concerned about
It's a
the
good
fees,
point.
so we're gonna be looking at that coming forward, because this one that they're getting ready to open, for the first one, is something that they're looking at a large bill at this point.
Well, I just don't think they would pay that again if there was a house already standing there that had
Yeah.
already been paid.
I-
Mr. Rosenthal, do you know any difference?
Well, you would get a credit for the house that was existing there, but there would still be some impact fees to be paid.
You would, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, you would still pay over and above, i.e. if you do an addition on your house, you're gonna pay the impact fee for that addition on your house, the additional square footage. So especially if they go into a larger size, you're gonna end up paying, so if you're at 2,000, you gotta, let's make it,
No, I
these are
understand.
3,000. If you're at 1,000, you go to 2,000, or 1,500, you're gonna pay that additional.
Yeah,
You
for
do
the-
the same square footage you did before.
I didn't think you did.
You're not gonna have to pay a fee.
I would
If you
like
go above-
to investigate that.
So, but I want you
If
to
you
know
go
that
bigger,
I
you
am.
do pay, you do pay.
If you go bigger, you pay for the additional.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's levels of how much square footage might be, like 1,500 for the first cut, $2,000 for the next cut, and then higher than that. But
It
with
all
these
de-
here, they're all smaller, but I don't know if they even fit that level. But either way, I just want to tell you, from what they told us in the first house, they're scared about this project and going forward with it because of these fees. So we're going to be looking at it real close to make sure they do move on with it.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
and I can appreciate what you're saying, I'm not saying I want to be open to that discussion, but I know you say they're scared, I mean, you should always budget for your total cost of a project before you start a project too. So, I mean, whoever, I don't know who they have doing their finances, but they might want to make sure that before they start a project, they have everything built in going forward. So if they get to the point where they're about done and they go, oh my gosh, I didn't have to pay the fees,
Well,
I don't know who's doing
Well, no,
their
but
their work internally, but they might want to.
And let me clarify, the situation is, West Pasco Habitat for Humanity has just merged with Pinellas.
Sure.
Okay,
Don't they
we've
have-
started the project, we already had the house
Pinellas.
almost all the way built.
Yeah.
And he comes in as the new, because the Pinellas director has taken over,
Okay.
so he didn't know what was going on. He's just looking at what, he's being hit for a bill right now, and he's going, how did that happen? Why did it happen? Now, he knows why it happened. He's just saying that we've got to really look at this project, because we can't absorb, and, because they lose money in these homes, to go absorb all these fees to come out. And we're going to do, we're going to sit down, do a comparison with what they're paying down at Pinellas, try to structure an argument, try to look at how we need to have this happen. But it's only because the new guy coming in is seeing how he's being treated differently in Pinellas than he is Pasco.
Should also probably reach, just a suggestion, reach out to East Pasco Habitat for Humanity that builds homes too, and see how they budget everything in. Just a
Yeah.
suggestion. They should,
I don't
they
think
should
they
work
lose
together.
money.
What's that?
I don't think they lose money. They build a house for X number of dollars.
A lot of it's
And
free,
I don't see them lose money. I see them
free
build a
labor
very
too,
cheap
a
house.
lot of it.
Well,
They're still-
and
They
again,
get help for building that
They still
house.
haven't worked.
oh, they
People
do.
donated things
Yeah,
to
They
build
do, but I think they all count that as real dollars too, to the money they're gonna get back, so. Anyway, I'm gonna be working on the issue, I just wanna let you know about it, that it is an
Okay.
issue.
I wanted to say, and I don't know if I did a reply all, or I sent something to Kathy, but why can't Habitat for Humanity be a community home builder in our CDBG the community? Because you made a comment that they're not eligible because they're not one of our providers. So what does it take for what does it
That was
take
in
for
the memo that
Habitat
Marcy
to
wrote.
be one of our groups that builds the houses with community development money?
So they do receive money from us. I do want to make that clear. Both habitats do receive money from CDBG funds. As far as them becoming a developer, I'll have Marcy reach out to them and get that answer. I'm not sure of the answer to that question, but I will have Marcy reach out to them.
So Jack, seems to me they should apply to be one of the recipients.
Great point, I forgot about that email.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
So I'll include that with the meeting too, Kathy. We'll make sure you're there. Yeah. All right.
And help your, Gulf Harbor sponsored one of the houses, Gulf Harbor's Woodlands, you know, let's encourage them to start a fund too. I've mentioned it to the city manager of Newport Richey who lives in there, but I'd like to see that neighborhood over there get organized to start a fund for one of the houses. The Woodlands House, or whatever they want to
Yes.
call themselves.
Yep, they've talked about it too, and they're excited, and I think we might even see Gulf Harbors try to do another one.
Yeah, I'm game.
Yep, exciting, okay. 2 3/4 years ago, I had a meeting at Sea Ranch about dredging. We had communities up and down the coast coming up, and we talked about trying to use the BP money for dredging as well. From that conversation, others conversations I've talked about, and boat fees came up. And it was, I think, last year, maybe, it could have been even a year and a half ago, we figured that we got a note from staff saying that boat fees could not be used for dredging. Representative Mariano was working from data provided by us after we submitted they submitted a bill to go forward. And to actually back it up clearer, when we found out we couldn't use it, we went to the state legislature about trying to amend it. They said you need a special bill. Our attorney's office never saw it. So with Speaker Sprowls, Senator Simpson's office, they both said you need a new bill. We crafted a bill based upon what they said. Representative Mariano was bringing it forward, and at the second reading, it got rejected because they said, you don't need this bill, you can use the boat fees. She met with our county attorney. Our county attorney just sent an email over this morning. I'll forward it to you guys later on, but I wanted our county attorney to talk about boat fees as far as dredging, how his opinion concurs with the state officials.
Okay. So in trying to piece the emails back together again, there was I think originally the concept came out about trying to do additional registration fees by special act or local bill as a pilot project for Pasco County. Staff at the House came back and said, that's not legal. And I agree with them. You can't, that's one of those prohibited special acts. The state has preempted the field of regulation of boat registration, and they have a statute, which is 32872, which provides for those fees and how those fees would be spent. That fee is not allowed, it's got a tagline that says that fee is not permissible to be used for dredging. There is an optional fee, which the Board of County Commissioners or a city council can pass, that can be up to 50% of the fee the state has on a boat vessel registration. That fee has a different descriptor of what it can be used on. So if the board were to adopt this additional registration fee, you do not have it on the books right now, that fee could be, one of the things that it would be permissible for that fee to be used for is dredging. And so that fee source is available to the board, but it would be, the maximum fee that could be generated is 50% of the state authorized fee, and you could only use that small percentage of the optional fee for that purpose. And so apparently what has come back from House staff or what was said to the committee was that money is available to local governments, so we don't want to change the main fee to allow it as well. So the registration, if you went down this path, the registration would be split. Some of it, which comes back to the county, could not be used for dredging, and then this optional 50% fee could in fact be used for dredging if the board decided.
Okay. I mean, I'd like to bring it back to the board. I don't know if it needed to be next meeting, maybe even next month. Right now, there's an agenda item that we had to pull. Today it was going to be about doing the dredging for Gulf Harbors and Hudson. Because it didn't confirm with the Restore Act, we've got to regroup with it. If we needed to spend the money we're going to need to find the money to actually to fund the study one way or the other. This could be a good way to do it. I'm comfortable if we had a discussion about it for an hour item to bring something back to the board so we can actually discuss it further, because again, this is just information I got this morning, has been working its way through. There's a strong demand up and down the coast for dredging. I think there's a three-prong approach to do it, as well as assessing people that live in canals that these boat-front communities are willing to pay. I find that up and down that they're willing to help. I think BP money is going to be a big factor, but I think this is still another peg that's in there that could be done to help boating up in the area.
Mr. Steinstein? Yes. Just to go back on your statement a little bit. So how I originally understood it, would have to be a bill would have to pass to allow the local government to increase that fee. You're saying now that the information is incorrect.
No, what was said to the board, based on what I've been able to gather, was a bill would have to be passed to allow all of boating registration fees to be used for dredging.
Well,
And that's still the case.
correct.
The major portion of the money that you get from the state for boat registration fees still would not be able to be used for dredging.
I understand that. But in addition, so yes, you're allowed to, I thought you needed a special bill to allow you to raise it up to 50%.
No, there's general law on the books that allows you to raise it another 50% of the fee.
You can do that, but to be used for dredging, I thought there had to be a special bill to allow that portion. That's where the catch is here.
The language which is in 32866, which is the one that allows you to adopt that additional fee, does not have a prohibition against dredging.
Is that for state county government and city government?
County and city government,
Okay.
if you'll let me.
So that's not what was previously thought.
Correct.
And brought up. So, yeah. We talked about the money that possibly could be raised, and it was very, very small.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was like hardly anything. I mean, if you raise it up by 50%, use a portion of that for the dredging. I mean, maybe you're looking at like $100-something thousand a year, if that.
At this point, if half was available, if it's on just the delta.
Yeah. Again, just remember, you've got an entire county, and you've got people that live on lakes in central Pasco, that their boats are sitting on their lake, or sitting on a lift on their lake, and they never leave those lakes, and there's quite a few of them. And the county does not maintain those lakes. The county does not put one dime towards those lakes. If you look at areas like Lake Pageant, they have their own internal assessments, or people basically donate to maintain those lakes and put carp in those lakes. So what's their benefit? What would their benefit be? What would you tell the thousands of citizens that live on lakes that have boats? What is the benefit to them of raising a boat fee? That would be my question. But that's their question, because they've already asked it. And they will continue to. And they'll be very vocal.
Yeah. It's a good question, and it's something that if again, only part of it can be used for dredging anyway, and we can look at that delta, and if there's better flexibility to go put more money into, let's say one of them needed a ramp, if that was applicable, I don't know, with the boat fees, but I think we've done internal stuff with lakes in this county back years ago. So I think that if we can discuss it, go further with it, maybe there are those opportunities, we'd have to look into it, and again, this
The
is just...
private lakes, we can't put money towards those private lakes. I think Mr. Steinsteiner would probably.
Yeah,
chime in
if
on
they are purely private lakes, then you can't expend public funds on private property.
There'd be no benefit to those citizens. So let me keep going just for 1 second.
Well, I have a solution.
Okay, cool. So let me just keep going for a second. So we talked about, again, I don't know, it was possibly $100 and something thousand. It would take you 20 years to raise the funds that were needed by doing that.
And again, it's only a partial source, but I think the money generated was around 248 grand, was what they figured if every boat paid
That's if you use
$20.
this, but if you add the 50% on top of it and you use a portion, it wouldn't be that. It'd be
Right,
much.
and then you're getting close to that $100,000 number, so,
Correct.
agreed. And like I said, I'm looking at every source we can to make this happen. We're gonna need a lot of money in different sources, but if everybody's gonna benefit from it, and again, I'm willing to have the full discussion as far as what can be done out for the lake folks as well, with that money.
We can't,
I'm telling you, we've done inland lakes already. We've spent money from the boating fees, the way they're set up even right now. So I'm not sure exactly what the
They have
limitations
their
are.
own
but-
private boat ramps that are maintained by the communities. I don't know what else it'd be.
So we had a boat that we used on Lake Ann, and then we also trailered it and put it in the water. And it seems to me, one of the ways we could differentiate between a boat on the lake here and a boat that goes in the water is potentially the size. And maybe I'd ask the captain. Certainly boats under maybe 18 to 20 feet are probably not going out in the Gulf. So maybe the fee could just be for a boat of a certain size or greater, the addition. Mike?
I mean, people use boats in the Gulf. I mean, the 18-foot boat's a normal boat to use in the Gulf because it doesn't draft any water. Mike's got a 16-foot John boat that he uses
But
in the
those are
Gulf.
few.
Yeah. I just, Chairman, if I could real quick. You know, I know now we get 150,000 from the state, and I know the state really preempts that it needs to go back to our boat ramps, you know, for improvements, and I think it needs to stay that way. I think if we're gonna do the money, I think the money needs to go back to the boat ramps. We do have some lakes where we have boat ramps and we have access. That's where it needs to go. It's where it's gone. Again, the dredging is 7 million. I don't know what the number was. It was a big number.
No, we don't know the number
You
yet.
know, it's a huge number, so I mean, it's not even gonna put a dent in it, but if we're gonna even look at increasing the fee, it needs to go back to the folks that use our ramps, fresh and saltwater, in my opinion, so.
And I don't disagree with that.
It'd be hard to separate who's going to the lakes and who's going to the
Exactly,
lakes.
And-
It'd be hard to govern where that money's being charged.
And on the boat ramp discussion, at our next board meeting, we should have a very good item to vote on that deals with Anklet River Park. So I'm real excited to
Oh,
take.
yeah?
Yeah.
Good,
I
good,
think
good,
I think we're there. So
Good.
you should see that at our next board meeting.
Nice.
Okay.
You're done?
Next subject. You know, we went to that MPOAC workshop, and again, I want to say it was a great workshop to go to, and I went to it 14 years ago. The information, a little bit fresher, but I'll tell you, the information that just came out from different programs that have changed over the years and what's out there current right now, I think every single MPO member should go take a look at this and take this course at some point. The sooner the better, because the more information we have collectively as we talk these things through, can make a lot more sense. I'm going to give you a couple of things that just from that conversation, just like Catherine was saying, that she's working on, that, you know, think in our heads of what can we do to help the county. County Line Road is something that's been, years ago was a strong thing to get done, and then it kind of died off when Hernando didn't want to do it. Or Hernando's now, as we've seen in the MPO, raised a lot of money for those intersections. They now want to move forward with their program. There's a program with TRIP funds that if you have two counties connected to each other, contiguous counties, you can actually get funding separate from everything else we're doing to go after that money. I've already reached out to, actually, I happened to coincidentally have a meeting with DOT staff on yesterday's meeting, already set up, and it was one of the subjects we talked about is what we just signed here, but that was one of the topics I brought up when we got through. And they said, yeah, you can actually go look at using the TRIP funds for that county line project, and we're happy to work with you. I talked with the Commissioner Dukes from Hernando County. He is all about, and they're all about trying to make that road project happen. So without hurting our own funding options that are on the table right now, this is something I want our staff to go take a look at to bring forward. Could bring extra money to a county that would get us all, possibly all the way out to 41, which would really help the transportation network for that part of the county. So,
And I want to reiterate that we want to see some action from staff. And on the same subject, they said, and I brought this up before, that there is money called safety money that is separate from our pot.
Yep.
And Commissioner Oakley, I brought this up many times at our MPO meeting. I've never seen any action on it.
Yeah.
That we can apply for safety money to add shoulders onto those roads in the San Antonio Hills to widen the shoulders, to make it safe for the cyclists and the trucks. Hernando County used that money to put shoulders on their road. I don't remember the name of it now. But, you know, they've got these wide shoulders, and the minute you come to Pasco County, it stops. And it's the same road the cyclists use.
That's on County Road 41, is what you're talking about, the spring.
No, there's another,
Lake area.
Spring Lake Road?
Yeah,
Is that what it's called?
that's
Yeah.
it,
And
that's it.
I've been saying this for like 4 years, because I was at a meeting in Gainesville, and the people that run that division, that there's a FDOT, kind of like Cutter is at University of South Florida. University of Florida has some kind of transportation study facility up there, and they are the ones that administer the safety money. And that's where Hernando County got theirs, and I have never seen us apply for it. So a little frustrating. So please, Administrator Biles, in your action items, let us see something on what he's saying and the safety money.
If there's safety money on roads that we can get, we need to grab
Yep,
that.
I got it.
use
I got the note.
and you know, kind of an interesting topic too that come up. When we go and look for the budget for the state to go move projects up and move them up, a lot of times that money is just our own money, we're just moving around ourselves. We're just getting their permission to go do it. So I'm not as enthused about doing those in the future as much as we're doing it, but there's a project that I'm going to be looking at, and matter of fact, we just passed C11 today, the FEMA, what was it, the Pasco County Board of Commissioners Federal Emergency Agency 5-year update for FEMA about safety. And one of the clips I saw on there talked about fire safety. A couple of years ago on Old Dixie Highway, right after we had repaved it, we had a fire that crossed the Swiftmud property, going about a mile long, that crossed over and went into Sea Pines. We had to go fight it. Didn't lose any homes, but it got really close. I talked to Kevin Guthrie at the time. He thought it was a good idea to try to put a fire trail, a fire road, that would be the concrete or asphalt running all the way up that stretch, which would actually help our transportation as we're trying to put a trail up there anyway. Now if we make it a fire trail, it's actually got a dual purpose and could go. Chief Fossa gave me some information here that I'm going to send in with FEMA. We're going to go take a look at it. We're going to bring them out and go take a look at it. But that's just like another project in working with different pots of money that are there that are open that we need to try to go. So again, the MPOAC meeting was awesome. I think everybody should do it. And just the ideas, the more information we all have, the better ideas we keep on driving and discuss things through that I think would be beneficial.
They still have the game show at the end.
I'd say they had a really good game show this time. That
I
kept-
went back in 2015. like,
Okay.
yeah.
They had, the show they had this, the game they had this time, it kept you engaged from segment to segment.
Yeah, that
And
was
you
fun.
put on, like, teams of three of
Yeah.
each one, just kind of watching the thing through.
No, this is the first year they did it the way
Oh,
they.
is it?
Yeah,
And
because they had so many people.
Yeah, every segment, they broke it down so that you get questions about what was coming up and what you just discussed. And it really made you think as you're
Yeah.
watching it, knowing you're going to be partnering with some people that you better get the right answers and then fighting it through. And I'll give Catherine kudos. Her group won the last phase there.
Yes.
Or the middle phase there.
Yes.
Uh,
And coming out of adversity of not
And
being able to log in.
And just to say, I want to say Chase Daniels and the Sheriff's Department's doing a good job up at Hudson Beach. We just had a little issue there the other morning. They're working already on a team thing with the business people out there to make it safer out there for our people. So I'm confident, Chase. Thank you for reaching out this morning right off the bat. Mike Melikos was very happy and looking forward to your help there. I got one other thought, and the Lynx Golf Course. We talked about it at the previous meeting over here, and I had met since then with the owners. I've got great information, Commissioner Moore, thank you very much. Plantation Palms gave us all their information.
Good.
They're trying to coordinate a time to come out there to speak with the associations.
Oh, good.
There's 5 of them, so they're kind of trying to get them all together. We've had the heads to get together, but we need everybody together, so we may even look to use a county building. I want to go take a look at an ordinance. Now, we've had Timber Oak shut down, we've had Magnolia Valley shut down. Both of those really had fundamental issues with flooding issues, which I think was very important we did the right thing. The Links Golf Course doesn't have those issues, might have other things to it, but I think it's something that we need to look at protecting people that buy on a golf course, and I am one of them. Okay, Beacon Woods, so it doesn't affect it by this here, but those people pay a premium for their lots, it increases the value, and it's been known for years that a lot of non-golfers like to live in golf course communities as well. When Timber Oaks went down and they had trouble, there was coyotes out there, wildlife out there, and it was scary, scary times for those folks out there. All of a sudden, this grass is not being maintained except for a 15-foot border. We need to change that. We need to say, if you're going to have a golf course and you're going to shut it down, you're going to still have to maintain the grass to a certain level, to certain times, even if it's not golf course maintained, but all the way through, and not give them an easy out to go shut it down and put the people in a bad position and drop their property values. And I will tell you, in a conversation with the owner of the Links Golf Course, when we talked about, meeting, he was very happy to see that the associations were going to try to work with him to try to raise capital. But he also brought up a story to me that really rings home. There was some people that were trying to sell their home on the golf course, and when they were selling the golf course, they had to go disclose to them that the golf course was shutting down June 10th. Yep. When they did that, they walked away from the house.
Sure.
To get them back to negotiate in, the people had to drop their property value $30,000 to sell the home. So if that doesn't tell you there's a direct correlation to property values and living in a golf course and maintaining it, I think we need to go, and I've already talked to this county attorney like at 9:59 this morning, but I want to go take a look at this coming up. Well, I just got my word back from a meeting I had this morning, but I want to go take a look at bringing something back to protect those people that do live in golf courses so they don't get strong-armed from other people about, how we need to go change the deal that they signed up for many years ago.
To expand on that, Commissioner, there's a fine line there between the rights of the property owner of the golf course and forcing him to, keep costs. But I do costs going even when it shuts down. But I do agree that they should at least have to maybe maintain a strip around people's property. But it brings to mind when people in Fairway Springs, when we went to permit Longleaf, were adamant that we should not do anything because they had paid a premium for their lots to look out over our cattle ranch, and they didn't want their view to go away because they had paid for the view of our cattle. And they used to even call us to say, please get our mowers out behind their house because the grass had grown so high they could not see into our ranch anymore, and we need to get out there and mow to get them their view back. And you can appreciate this as a ag person that, that isn't how that works. Really, the best way to ensure that a golf course stays in operation is that they require everyone in that association, in that homeowners association, should pay into the ownership, a fee into the golf course. That's the only ones that are being sustained. So.
I just don't want to see the situation, and granted, when they've already set up, the biggest struggle you have down in Holiday, and probably around this county, is that we have HOAs that have defunct.
Right.
Going under, and they don't have any rules anymore to enforce anything or to collect any money to keep everything up. So granted to that, but when, like I said, with these people paying a premium for the golf course from the developer that sold the golf course, we should be able to still protect it. And so any rezonings that may come in, we should be a protection that, if it's going to drop property values from everybody in there, that's got to be one of the things to be considered.
Right. Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will revert back to a decision that was made by this board a little over a year ago when it came to the golf course in Quail Hollow. That's the same situation. Now, I lost that vote 4-1. So I don't disagree with you, but I guess it's good we're seeing the light now, but the same time, now you're seeing what's happening in your district in a very similar situation. You know, I mean,
I will tell you what will happen is the property will go into an LLC. And if the golf course goes out of business, the LLC will go out of business and you won't have anybody. There won't be anybody to go after. It doesn't, I think that's how those can work, unfortunately, but.
but I think it's great you're meeting with
Yeah, good
Jim
job.
and those guys at Plantation Palms, because they've been through it, they worked, you know, they actually brought an operator in. You know, they went out and saw the operator. So this is good timing, because maybe something can be worked out with the current operator, because once he closes shop, the investment that's gonna have to be made by the next operator will be exuberant.
Well, and the thing was.
Save it now, because if you wait.
Well, here's the thing. The owner of the golf course does not want to sell.
Pardon me, the what?
The owner of the golf course doesn't want to sell. So
He's just
even
losing money.
even
He
if
has
the-
to. He's
well,
forced
even if the people though had a buyer, and there's a couple of them mentioned that they may have some people out there as well, and I've had 2 calls on it already. But even if they had someone to go buy it, he still doesn't want to sell it.
Does he want to develop it?
We won't say he's
Well,
going
I'm
to
sure he
develop either,
does.
so.
I'm sure there's much more.
Oh, there's a lot to it. And again, I just don't want to be having the residents getting strong-armed from a play that was done like in Timber Oaks to kind of force something to happen.
So, just to continue on, so, Mr. Chairman. I know, we're good.
All right.
The golf course, does it have any additional zonings currently besides for a golf course? Is there any residential zoning, additional residential zoning attached, or similar to what the other situation was, that it was already had a kind of a blanket zoning for
I will tell you, I'm meeting
single-family
with-
homes?
Before we start at 1:30 today, at some point, I'm going to meet with Denise Hernandez. She's bringing over that information, so we actually go take a look at what she's got.
Right.
She's been trying to get the information out for a little bit of time, so
Yeah, 'cause-
hopefully I'll get a little more information on it, but
'Cause if it doesn't have
I am
it-
looking at that angle.
You're right,
so-
because if it doesn't currently have the zoning, you'd have to go through the rezoning process, and that doesn't mean this body would approve it.
You
So-
can look that up.
I'm gonna, well, in a minute, but I want to bring the files, because a little while ago, they tried to look at developing inside to the golf course, which now the owner owns, and they couldn't go past the tennis courts without getting in there, and that was like an issue there, so we're going to kind of look at what's happened now. Now he owns the other property as well. He still needs that adjoining piece, so again, I am looking at that, so another great point, Commissioner Moore.
All right, before we break for lunch, I'd like to cover one item on my old business. Mr. Bourne, I'd like to thank you for your article on the old mill property in Lacoochee. I appreciate that article, and it's been a part of my life for a long, long time, and my family's life. And the fact that we've got a manufacturing coming into that old mill property there at Lacoochee with 50 to 70 jobs is very much a great thing happening in that area in East Pasco County. So I want to thank you for your article. A lot of people are talking about it, and it's exciting news for this area. So
Can we get a copy of the article? I don't think I've
yeah,
seen it.
we get it. Yeah, I'll get one. Make sure everybody gets a copy. I can get my secretary to look at it. That's not our problem. They should have read it. You know.
Whose paper?
I read it.
Oh, I don't
After
recall
that,
seeing it. Was
we'll
it in
adjourn.
Friday's paper? Was it Friday's?
He can
I'll
tell you what-
Google it.
I forget what it is, but I'll get her a copy. So, but I will, at this time, adjourn to 1:30
called?
when we have
Old
a
Mill?
public hearing.
Just look up, just Tampa Bay Times.
I would like to call back to order the Pasco County Board of County Commission meeting, June 4th, 2019. I'd like to remind everyone to please silence all electronic devices at this time. We move now to Resolution 1, and it's read by title only. That was just one public comment.
Oh, okay. Resolution number 19180, a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, declaring June 15th, 2019 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Pasco County. Done and resolved in regular session with the quorum present and voting this 4th day of June, 2019, signed by the board.
Move for approval.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, sir.
That's all
That's
the
it.
resolutions we have today, and then we'll move on to public hearings, starting with P1 ordinance.
We do have proof?
Yes.
Do. Tampa Bay Times, May 10th, 2019.
Okay.
Justin Ressler, Assistant Solid Waste Director.
And then you can go wherever you want. That's just the internal stuff.
It's not going. P1 is an ordinance amending Chapter 90, Article 2 of the Pasco County Code of Ordinances, Solid Waste Collection and Disposal, Divisions 1 and 2, Sections 90-27, 90-47, 90-49, 90-50, relating to recycling, providing for repealer, providing for severability, providing for applicability, providing for an inclusion in code, providing an effective date. So this is the same ordinance that was continued last week. Again, it does three things. It moves recycling service to once per week. It mandates that the haulers must provide a recycling cart to residents upon request, and it removes glass from the recycling stream. Consistent with some of the discussions we've had last week, consistent with the county attorney's interpretation, this would not supersede CDD's or HOA's existing contracts, but once those contracts expired, they would be required to come up to the level of service in this ordinance.
Is there anyone, is that all you have?
Yes,
Is
sir.
there anyone here to speak to this item?
Seeing none, move for approval.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
A second. All those in favor say.
Roll call
Roll call
vote.
vote. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed. P2.
We do have proof.
Before you go to P2, do you want to take up, don't they have the resolution? Yes. P11
P11.
is the companion item to this.
To P2.
Why? To P1 that you
Oh,
just
okay.
did. So you're still in the solid waste mode if you'd like to take that up.
Okay, let's move to P11.
Okay, we do have proof of P11, Tampa Bay Times, May 9th, 2019.
Go back to work.
P11 is a resolution adjusting the rate for solid waste residential collection services. So here in Pasco County, we have an open market residential solid waste collection. What that means is the haulers are offered a 10-year license by the county, but collection fees are between the haulers and the citizens themselves. Pasco County does not set hauler areas, does not require citizens to have waste connection or waste collection, but what it does do is set the ceiling for waste collection rates. Again, entities can negotiate directly with the hauler for lower rates than the ceiling. So the rationale for bringing this forward today is really two reasons. One is the ordinance which just passed, increasing the level of recycling service to once a week. So you have a level of service increase. You'd likely need a rate adjustment to accompany that. The second is that these rates have not been reviewed and increased since 2009. There's been a significant increase in economic activity since then, consumables costs, labor costs, and so we brought this forward today for those reasons. What we've done is we've hired a rate consultant. We've utilized the same methodology that's historically been used, consistent with the ordinance, to come up with a new base rate and an adjustment for the once per week recycling. So what that would do is it would move it from $12.44 a month to $16.81 a month. And again, that's the ceiling, the maximum that haulers would be able to charge for residential solid waste collection. This new rate can only be implemented once the once per week recycling service has been in effect. And haulers will have 90 days to comply with that. What we've done to provide a little context is we've showed collection and disposal rates for surrounding communities. So it's important to realize that in a lot of other communities, these services are franchised, and so they're bundled together on the tax roll. So it's oftentimes hard to get data on what the specific collection fee is and what the specific disposal fee is. So we kind of tried to gather this data and present what the total all-in fees for surrounding municipalities would be. So here's a chart of the annual solid waste fees for communities with waste energy facilities. So you can see Pasco County down there in the blue currently. Again, this is collection and disposal. Again, disposal is not required here in Pasco County. And then the rate increase that we're proposing today moves us up a little bit near the middle. Similarly, this is a regional breakdown. This includes communities with differing levels of service with and without, waste energy facilities. But you can see we're slightly on the low end there with some of the more rural communities. And again, this adjustment moves us up a little bit there.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak to P11?
See no move for approval.
Second.
I got a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Now we move on to P2.
We do have proof. Tampa Bay Times, May 5th and May 10th, 2019.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Denise Hernandez, Planning and Development. Item P2 is a temporary moratorium ordinance. This is PDD 19-0944. The PDD Planning and Development Department is requesting that the item be continued to the June 19th, 2019 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Newport Richey.
Question? Are we still accepting applications, or is that?
We are not accepting applications at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody, I don't have a sign-up sheet saying so, but is anybody here from the public who'd like to speak to this item? Seeing no one? Pleasure of the board.
Do we have to?
It's a continuance.
Yes.
It's a
It's a continuance. You gotta
Yeah,
move.
so we do vote on it? I don't
Yes,
Yes.
you do.
know. Move to approve?
No.
Move to
Continue.
continue
Move to
to
continue.
to June 19th.
Move to approve staff's recommendation. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second.
Yeah. I got a motion and a second to continue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is that roll call?
No.
Not on continue.
Not on
Okay.
continuances.
All right, move on to P3.
Item P3 is PDD 19-1024. It's a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment. This is also a continuance. Your agenda memo does state the correct continuance date, but your details section, the short agenda, does have the incorrect date. It's a continuance to July 9th, 2019, Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Move to continue to July 9th.
Second.
Let's continue. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Seeing none, motion passed.
For the record, P3 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, March 15th, 2019.
Okay. We'll move on to P4.
Okay, that was advertised.
Proof.
Yep, we have proof. It was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times on April 26th, 2019.
Item P4 is PDD 19-7410. It's MHC Forest Lake Estates, MH LLC. It's a change in zoning from AC to RMH. And this comes to you with a recommendation of continuance to August 6, 2019, Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Move to continue August 6th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to continue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed.
P5, we do have proof. Tampa Bay Times, April 26th, 2019.
Item P5 is PDD 19-7413. It's in the name of Carmel Friendship Baptist Church, Inc. It's for a change in zoning from an MPUD to a C1. This comes to you with a recommendation of continuance to the August 6, 2019 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Move to continue August 6th.
I have no one here to speak to that item.
It doesn't.
No,
Got a
it's
motion?
not pulled.
Oh, it's continued,
Continue.
excuse me.
Move to continue August 6th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And
And move
if-
this time to P11.
P10.
10.
Okay? P10.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have proof. Tampa Bay Times, March 1st and March 16th, 2019.
And item P10 is PDD 19-7398 in the name of Burge Kanjian and Paulo Grady. It's for a change in zoning from R2 low-density residential to an MF2 multiple-family medium-density district. This comes to you with a recommendation to continue to the 7/9/19 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 in Dade City.
Move to continue.
Time second.
Mr. Chairman,
Wait,
this was advertised for action, so if there's anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this item but could not make it to the continued date, this would be their opportunity to comment.
Right.
there
Seeing no
anybody?
one?
Seeing no one.
That's P10, correct?
What?
P10.
Correct, yes,
P10.
P10. Move to continue, or he already had a motion, I think.
Wait, on mine it says approved, so.
It's
It
being,
it does, the applicant requested a continuance just a few days ago.
Relates to 5. 10 relates to 5.
Oh,
Okay?
No.
because on my P5 it says August 6th, and I thought you said a different date.
P10, I just wanted to hear the continuances in order, so P10 is also a continuance, and it was requested by the applicant a few days ago.
And
It was on regular, so.
What day is the
The
commissioner's?
continuance is to July 9th, 2019, 1:30 in Dade City.
And what day do you have P5 continuing?
P5 is continued to August 6, 2019, 1:30 in Dade City.
I just thought you were going the same day.
Okay. All right. I got a motion and a
I was gonna
second.
catch
All
you
those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. At this time, we're finished with the ordinances. Proceed with the procedures for rezoning. Mr. Stein-Snyder, if you will repeat those procedures and zoning.
There are 2 rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended approval and there's no opposition, the application will be considered by the board without further presentation. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended denial, or if there is opposition to the applicant will be given 5 minutes for a presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual or 5 minutes for a group representative. And the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or planning commission recommendation or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning may at this time request the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during this meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion and vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial public hearings. The law in Florida is that mere public support or opposition of an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria found within the board's land development code for rezonings.
Pretty sure.
Does anyone wish to speak to anything? If you want to stand, I can swear you in. Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move
So
on
on
to
P6, I do have proof.
P6.
Tampa Bay Times, April 26, 2019.
Okay.
Item P6 is PDD 19-7408 in the name of Russell and Leanne Finley. It's for a rezoning from an AC agricultural district to an AR5 agricultural residential district. This comes to you with a recommendation of approval by both the Planning Commission and the Planning and Development Department.
Okay. We don't have anyone signed up. Does anyone want to speak to this item or against this item? Seeing no one,
Leave
leave it on consent.
Okay, P7 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, April 26, 2019.
Item P7 is PDD 19-0963. It's in the name of Angelo's Aggregate Materials Limited and Stony Point Limited Partnership. It's for a Class 1 mine and Class 3 landfill for the existing Enterprise Road Recycling and Solid Waste Facility in an agricultural and master plan unit development districts. And it comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions as contained in your packet by both the Planning Commission and Planning and Development Department.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak against this item, P7? Seeing no one, leave it on consent.
Okay, P8 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, May 10th, 2019.
Item P8 is PDD 19-0983. It's a Comprehensive Plan Amendment, CPAL 1913, to the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment. And today we're asking that you authorize transmittal to the Department of Economic Opportunity and other reviewing agencies on this item.
Is anyone here to speak against P8? Seeing no one, leave it on consent.
P9 was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times, May 13th, 2019, and I believe it's District 1, not 2. So there may need to be a correction. Could you check that?
Definitely will be checking that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
PDD 19-1014, it's a development agreement for the Watergrass Promenade Business Center. and it's an agreement between Pasco County and CBK Development LLC in connection with the development of the Promenade Business Center and Employment Center consisting of approximately 77.08 acres. And this comes to you with a recommendation of approval with conditions.
Is there anyone here to speak against P9? Seeing no one, leave it on consent. And I believe that's the, all the items have been going through on consent. Need a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Now, P10 and 11 are done. I'm going to go to old business.
Resolution?
Mr. Biles.
Yeah, everything's done. Yes, sir, I got just a few items today. One, let you know that last Wednesday, we had a public sale of the initial bond offerings, and with a real good result. The base interest rate, if you will, is about 3.32% is what we'll be paying on those bonds, which is really good in the market, current market. Effectively, that step in rating between 1A and AA is probably going to save us anywhere from $1 million to $1.3 million over the lifetime of the bonds. So that's real good work, real positive. So that's that one. Tourism recently won a bronze Telly Award for their branded content in the tourism travel category recently for their video, The Experience Florida Sports Coast, that was put out a few months ago. And Connected City won another award. I know, filling up a whole cabinet with awards on Connected City, but this time it's a FAC award that will be presented at the FAC meetings here in a couple weeks. So at the dinner that night. So it's a best practices award. And last,
As far as I know, Jack's going to be at that dinner. Is
Right.
the staff coming over for that?
I think we'll have a few people there.
I feel bad.
Yeah, I don't know the
have to
names,
leave at
but
noon.
we will have a few people there. So, but I'm sure Commissioner Mariano knows how to walk up on stage and get the award, so. Yeah, so. The last thing is there's a handout on your sheet, and I know Paula sent out earlier an email with respect to the census, the complete count committees. The U.S. Census was in last meeting and talked about complete count committees, how we want to make sure everybody's counted. There's a little handout that kind of a little further details into what we need to do as a county. Again, this is really not a local government-led effort. We facilitate it. It's more needs to be done by individuals out in the community. One thing we will ask the board to consider, we will be bringing back probably a couple of recommendations next meeting, kind of giving you who our point of contact will be on the county side. So we probably some long-range planning. But one thing the board needs to think about is who do you want to appoint as the chair of the overall committee? And then how, we'll talk structure after that, and then how you want to fill those out. So no action needed today, but just kind of wanted to brief you, get you up to speed on that. The handout was left on the dais for that, and please get with us if you have any questions, and we will have probably an item in the R section next meeting to kind of discuss this further and look for a couple of recommendations and actions.
Okay.
So, and this is, in general, it's about getting everybody that lives in Pasco County counted.
Right.
So.
It's good.
That's all I have.
That's all? Thank you. Mr. Steinstein?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, canvassing, one of your other favorite topics that I bring up, canvassing board. Both the primary and the alternate are unavailable for the meeting that is June 14th. In talking or in emailing with the supervisor of elections, they have recommended that we appoint Steve Spina, either current city manager or retired city manager from Zephyr Hills, depending on the day. The chair, my reading of the statute is the chair can do that because it says the chair, if no one is available to serve, the chair may appoint. But I thought it appropriate to bring that to your attention. If you want to authorize the chairman to sign that letter, you can. I think he's got the authority to do it without a motion, but you wish it, you want to get?
Yeah, I would think it'd be.
Okay.
a motion. That's everybody's.
So then if I could get a motion from the board to authorize the chairman to sign a letter to Judge Sestek as the chair of the canvassing board, appointing Steve Spina as the alternate for that board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Thank
And,
you.
and on that same note, after the special election, I think I have to come off the canvassing board since I'm on the ballot.
Yeah, well, there would be a new canvassing board appointment at that point. You run through a cycle, and then we normally do that, because everybody changes for the 2020 election. Just so happens that Commissioner Wells won't be running, so that would allow him to continue to serve.
And I may be able to stay if I'm unopposed, and then if I get it, but I don't know. Because then I wouldn't be on the 2020, I think.
So there will be we'll deal with the 2020 elections once we get through this cycle. That's it.
That's it?
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, sir. I left at your desks the comprehensive annual financial report for last fiscal year. It's been out, it was on time, it was actually early, so it's been out, but electronically we got them printed for you. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
I was like a hard copy.
Nice picture. So everyone knows, today is also the last time that our clerk will be with us in this location.
That's correct.
Because she'll be retiring, and we wish her well in her retirement. So, she said it's been 30-some years, but it doesn't seem like it could be.
We got her one more week.
Thank you.
It's great. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been an honor.
Yep.
I got a notice from FACT that it's the county's, was it 150th anniversary? Is
I'm
that
going to
right?
bring that up
Oh,
in
you
my
are?
business, if you don't mind.
All right. You go for it. You're good as it.
So, that was one thing. And one other thing I wanted to bring up also, I wanted to make sure, I was not sure that Mr. Bowen was going to be here after 1:30. Sometimes he steps away, so, but his article and all we were talking about, and I talked to him after, at the lunch break, and he said, my grandfather actually ran a brownie, and he said it would take him a whole paragraph to describe what a brownie was. So, but a brownie is a crane on tracks. And that's what he operated. He unloaded logs coming in from out in the fields into the plant, and then when he unloaded them, he'd reload them going back into the plant to be sawn to lumber. So it's quite an interesting business back in those days, and just imagine it came to an end, but they'd probably harvest all the cypress that you can imagine around. But those cypress trees at times were, they'd be 6, 8, 10 feet across on the bottom, where they'd have to saw, and people stand up on they put ledges, wood ledges, they cut out a place to stick a piece of wood there. Another guy would do it on the other side, and they'd take that saw and move it back and forth. They didn't have chainsaws at that point in time, so they just had your long saws. And pretty interesting. I used to be there a lot when I was a child. After my mother passed away when I was 10, they lived in Lacucci, and that's where I spent a lot of my time. But I got to see all that firsthand. I saw railroad cars come in with just one log on them because the log was so large, you couldn't put another one on there.
Cool.
And it was pretty huge. And many times you'd see it come in with maybe 3 logs on that car, which is very large timber that was cut here and that's back in the 50s. So I think the plant closed about 1959, which I was 14 when it closed. So. But a great part of our history, and Pioneer Museum shows a lot of that. If you've never been out to Pioneer Museum and visit that, you would certainly enjoy seeing that. Another item I had was this week, Dade City celebrates 130 years as being a city here in Pasco County. A few years prior to that, Pasco County had been developed from the lower half of Hernando County. So we were a part of Hernando County when it first initially was a part of the county, and then Pasco County, Sam Pasco was the name of the person that we named Pasco County after. And that was in 1884, 85, somewhere in there. And 1889 was the birth of Dade City, and it continued to today. And we celebrate that this week, 130 years, Dade City. Dade City is also, so you know, this week, and it's also a celebration of the National Garden Club of this week also. But Dade City was named Monarch City, USA, and monarch butterflies. And they are committed to habitat and providing a habitat. Our extension service is reaching out to them and the garden club and the master gardeners that work through us, doing a great job and educate those people in the neighborhoods about how to have a habitat for butterflies in their own backyards. So it's pretty neat that in, I think in 1997, there were 682 million butterflies, and 19 years later, they counted there were only 150 million butterflies remaining. Now, I don't know who counted them or how they did it. I think I'd like the job, but I'm not sure. But monarch butterflies deliver a large part of our agricultural community, because 1/3 of all our agricultural crops have to be pollinated by birds, bats, butterflies, bees, small mammals, and things of that nature. These pollinators are because of one bite of every 3 bites that you take, that they pollinate all of our plants and agricultural products. So pretty neat, pretty good information, and it's great to be, they're the only, Dade City is only the 5th city, municipality to be named Monarch City, USA.
Wow.
So that's quite an achievement, and through the garden club here in Dade City and all, and the extension service, going to be a lot of work toward that to help us. So, with that, I think that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything they want to add before we adjourn? Thank you. Seeing none, we're adjourned.